Welcome to this lovely Saturday evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are in the world. Because this is CBLOL English, we bring international gameplay of CBLOL. I'm Serchan, alongside me is RMC. What are you doing this match? How are you doing? This matchup today is going to be nuts.
It is, Serchan. We're down to the final four with Red versus Kate Stars today. Winner takes on Pain in the lower finals, and Loud sitting pretty at the top, taking all challengers. And Sochan, these two teams, Red Canids and Kate Stars, they have so much intertwined history together. Their rosters are so mixed. Red, Grevthar was playing on Kate Stars just last split. For the Kate Stars, Gigo, formerly from Red, part of their championship winning roster. And Laleko, that star rookie mid laner, he was originally from Red Academy.
Yeah, it's just something that makes the players feel like they know each other, but also how they want to play against each other with those mind games is going to be so crucial when we go into draft. We were just talking about it backstage as well. So love the possibilities. And we gotta address that absolute matchup, which is FNB versus Giga in the top lane, because both of them have been the most decorated of top laners in the season so far. FNB with plenty of those MVPs. I think you mentioned it, and correct me if I'm wrong. We had Red winning against VKS in regular season, and FNB being the MVP on both of those matches.
Yep, week 3, day 1, and week 7, day 2. And Red is the only team to have beaten Kate Stars twice in the regular season. Our first seed coming out the regular season was Kate Stars. But Sochan, before we go any further, we should take a look at the playoff brackets, because regular season is one thing, but here in CBLOL, it's always about the playoffs. And the road to get here has been interesting, to say the least. And I want to highlight sort of one team that both of these teams have played, and it was Los Grandes. You can see in round 1, Red faced them and 3-0'd them. Kate Stars faced them in the lower bracket in round 3 and went the full distance, 3-2. They won, but it was at a high price.
Oh yeah, and we know that playoffs is the place where best of fives really dictates the rhythm and how these teams know how to play in the very competitive high stakes scenario. So given that VKS was the first seed and they struggled against the last seed, lost going into a game 5, it really feels like there's something there that could be polished. And we know you mentioned that the rookie, we mentioned a couple of these points for VKS that could influence in the match today. So today, of course, whoever wins is going to advance to play against Pain, and deciding tomorrow who will face Loud in the grand finals. And of course, whoever loses is just out of the competition.
Yeah, and so if you talk about Kate Stars and sort of the rookies on that roster, we mentioned, of course, Laleko coming in mid-split, no less, from Red Academy. Well, let's take a look at this Kate Star roster, and maybe you can elaborate a little bit about these rookies, because as you pointed out, this was supposed to be a developmental team, or we can start with Red on the other side first, I guess. Okay. Yeah.
Well, we go for Red. There's no problem whatsoever, because you were talking about their history and, of course, the interchangeability of these players in the past seasons of CBLOL. We have here for the roster of Red Canids, Kalunga, FNB in the top lane, Aegis in the jungle, Grevthar mid, Bronze bot lane, and Jojo support. So we talked about that top, but there's also things to be mentioned about that mid lane and how Grevthar is going to perform here.
Yeah, and it's not only that Greftar used to be on Cade Stars. In fact, I think in this picture he is still wearing the Cade Stars jersey. But also the parallels between Greftar and Leleco, right? Leleco comes in mid-split, takes over from Takui, a huge, one of the biggest imports we had during this offseason, and has been performing phenomenally since then. I draw parallels with Greftar, who, let's not forget, his rookie debut split was him coming in for playoffs, replacing Avenger. And in that split, Greftar wins it all and goes on, I believe it was Worlds. That split was 2021 split too. Yeah, so Greftar just seemingly out of nowhere just pops off. And now Leleco is looking to do the same.
Oh yeah, they really are. So let's have a look at their roster for Vivo Cade Stars VKS as our first seed in the regular season, going here onto playoffs for a possibility of facing Pain tomorrow. That's going to be Gigo in the top lane, this means jungle, Leleco mid lane, Smiley ADC, and Prodelta support. And there's a little bit of history as well between this roster and Prodelta, who was in the Pain Gaming roster in the last split. And considering they were coming from Academy, just like Leleco is right now, we got a Vivo Cade Stars that really wants to make these rookies shine.
Yeah, and they've been doing such a good job with it as well. Coach Tiao under this program kind of said he was going to play Moneyball with this roster, right? He's looking for good overlooked talent that he can develop, and certainly has done that with Prodelta and Leleco and Desamis, a player who, again, we can't really call him a rookie anymore. He's had a couple of splits under his belt, but he kind of seemed to struggle, couldn't quite find his position. And then under Coach Tiao with this Cade Stars roster, he's just popping off right now. He's been looking like one of the best junglers in the league.
So exciting to see what's going to be the matchup starting out today with that draft soon on your screen. IRMC, I think, although we mentioned all that jazz about the top side, FMP, Gigo, we just have to pay attention to how the draft is going to be formed towards that bot lane, because Bronzy has been so present and just so aggressive for the side of Red Canids in regards to early game pressure and really developing a mid-game scaling strategy that VKS, with Smiley being a little bit more on the lower end of damage per minute and how impactful they are in the game, things are going to be super spicy on how they decide to draft, and whenever we see who's going to be blue and red side.
Yeah, I mean, FNB Gigo is the sort of highlight matchup. Of course, that's going to be one of our most interesting lanes to watch, but the bot lane might actually be the most influential. As you mentioned, Smiley, the draft for Smiley has not been very beneficial, unfortunately, especially here in Brazil. Our bot laners are insane here. It's not just the AD carries, supports as well. Lucian, Kalista, these two AD carries are some of the highest presence AD carries. Lucian right now in playoffs, picked 5 times, won 5 times, 100% win rate. Problem is, that's not Smalley's wheelhouse. Smalley likes his hyper carries, his late game champions, things like Jinx, like Zeri, on hit Varus specifically. Heck, he pulled out the Kog'Maw and the Sivir as well. His only sort of earlier game champion feels like the Kai'Sa. And 0 Lucian games played so far for Smalley in the playoffs. He played in the regular season 3 times, won twice, lost once. One of the few Lucian losses. And up against Bruntsy Jojo, of all bot lanes. That and Titan Curry probably feels like the best bot lanes we have in terms of laning right now.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I agree that with that 100% RMC is just the sheer I would say authority that they have in their gameplay. Just go in, they know how to do it. The synergy between ADC and support is just so on point that you know they're going to understand the play even before it starts, whenever you have that jungler coming in to help. And even when it's just 2v2, they know how to execute it and take the biggest of leads out of every single power spike on items, on level 2s, or level 6s. Everything really on point for all of these 2 bot lanes. That's why we get a little bit fearful for Smiley there. You want to find a place for them in the draft where they can perform better on the Lucian, or they can have a team composition that allows them to go the Zeri, to go the Jinx, really protecting them out. I don't know if we are still in a meta to be doing like double enchanters, right, to protect maybe these hyper carries, but I don't think it's just that possible at the moment, how aggressive everything is every side of the map. The only thing that I would see going out as Enchanter would be that Karma in the mid lane, but we know that she is going to be doing damage in the early game anyway, so it's just different.
Yeah, or potentially even the Orianna. I know she's not really Enchanter, so to say, in the mid lane, but first of all, she does still have that shield, and second of all, she is that Cade Star special, right? Leleco Even replacing Leko, Link is in Academy, Takui, all of them were taught to play Orianna pretty much the exact same way. And it's 100% ban rate right now against K-Stars in the playoffs. So I expect to see that continue. If not, maybe the double enchanter is a possibility. So, but let's talk on the other side of the map here, the matchup that we wanted to highlight, FNB versus Gigo. Two of our best top laners currently looking at their form. Gigo, our regular season MVP, 8 MVPs under his belt, currently solo kill leader as well here in the playoffs with 8 solo kills. And you contrast that to FNB, who has been what we've called the best Brazilian top laner never to win CBLOL. And he's continuing to perform right now. He's actually got the highest goal differential at 15. So he's the most lane dominant player right now in the playoffs at plus 739.
That's huge. And I think there's a couple of things between this matchup as well that are coincidental in regards to those matchups. They like doing Aatrox, they used to like doing K'Sante, but now K'Sante not that present anymore. We have the Jax coming through as well. All of these are going to be rivaled between. We have to highlight the potential Rek'Sai pick. Do you think either of these like match a little bit more with the Rek'Sai, or do both of them just able to flex it?
And from what we've seen, I think the Rek'Sai, the fact that both of them play it is a pretty significant deal. We saw that Lonely last week didn't play it. We did shift to patch 14.6, which is why Rek'Sai is very, very strong right now. And it feels like these two top laners have done their homework. If anything, the big difference for me between the two of them is the Rumble pickup. Gigo has played the Rumble, and I personally still think Rumble right now is the strongest top laner on this patch, is one of the few who can actually bully out even the Rek'Sai in that laning phase, and has just such huge teamfight utility. FNB, on the other hand, we know he can play Rumble, but he hasn't touched it at all this split, regular season or playoffs.
Yeah, I'm looking at the matches here, and we've seen quite a lot of Renekton, Jax, the Na sometimes, even a sprinkle of Gragas if necessary there for FNB, but mostly these champions. And as you said, if you can take advantage of it with the Rumble, with your long range damage, and just making sure that these very strong bruiser top laners are not going to have the time of day to be able to scale and become those monsters for team fights and just the absolute threats on split pushes, then the Rumble is really a great option. I agree with you. Let me just double check here if we have anything out of the ordinary that comes from Gigo. I think everything is just very similar on both of these top laners.
Yeah, by and large, I think Gigo also willing to play the tanks that FNB has not really done so, besides K'Sante. And so, Sean, that's what makes this draft interesting. The fact that Smiley might be capped a little bit, and the fact that, hey, Rumble is on board. And going into draft, I do believe I've been told K-Stars will actually be on blue side. Draft is right here. So, right the way we see the bans coming through from K-Stars. Lucian blue side ban? That is not what you want to see.
Okay, so VKS having that priority that we mentioned during the pregame and also in the backstage, you either get the B1 Lucian to deny it from Bronzy, or you just go for something that is much more priority. The Orianna, though, that you mentioned, that was 100% having that ban participation in regards to players against VKS is going to be confirmed as the B1, followed up by a Nocturne and a Rakan. But now Red taking the Jinx away from Smiley is a very interesting play.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a safe play necessarily when you've given over the Orianna. Orianna Nocturne, Orianna Vi, both combos that can come through. It feels like everybody else has moved away from the Orianna Nocturne combo. And personally, I don't know why. I don't think they got nerfed. I still feel like they're really, really strong. And I think K-Stars already, they're in their comfort zone. They got exactly what they wanted, and with the Rakan for Pro Delta as well. That is beautiful primary engage and or follow-up for the Nocturne Ori combo.
Look what we mentioned. That last pick in the first round is going to be Red, with FNB on the Rec side taking a lot of advantage from this champion in the current state of the patch. Now following up with the bans. Now Red taking away that Kai'Sa that we know Smiley plays. And as you mentioned, RMC, one of the few of those hyperscalers that Smiley plays that has a little bit more of that presence in the early game. Now VKS countering it out with a Tom Kench. Is Jinx and Tom Kench a thing? Am I missing something?
Yeah, no, it's a very safe thing, right? And it's also to stop the nullification of the Orianna Nocturne combo, because Tom Kench just devours and suddenly Jinx is perfectly safe. No other support can give that. We usually see sort of Thresh Jinx as well for a safe bot lane. That doesn't work against Nocturne Ori, because Nocturne will follow you all the way through that dark passage. So I like that ban. Red banning the Rumble, as we expected. You know, we mentioned some of the top laners who can actually deal with the Rek'Sai, but that does leave Varus open for Smiley. And while I think lethality Varus is the better option into Jinx, on hit Varus is still an option to just carry the rest of this fight once the burst of Nocturne Ori is down.
Definitely, and I really like this final ban here coming out from VKS. The things that I usually mostly think of when I'm talking about Jinx is the Lulu.
Hmm.
So if you're already denying that for JoJo, that's lovely. And I'm thinking for the top lane, what do you say Gio could take advantage of in going for the the Rek'Sai matchup rather? I'm thinking maybe a Nah. Do you agree with that?
Nar would be okay. Now, I will say the Nar matchup with Rek'Sai is a little bit scary because of all the tunnels and the ability for Rek'Sai to get into you. That becomes a more skill-based matchup, more than Nar usually gets against melee champions. If anything, what I think has been the best counter to Rek'Sai's a lot has just been picking hyper skillers who forget about winning the lane against Rek'Sai. Just go for the late game things like Gwen, like Ornn, like Sion. Tanks which hyper skill are really, really strong as well. Jax could be another potential option, and sure enough, yeah, Gigo
There you go.
has been playing a lot of it as well.
Okay, love to see it. And now Red wrapping it up there with a Vrel to go alongside the Jinx. Okay, I like the Aphelios. I really like the Aphelios here. I think there is enough of that protection for Smiley to be able to just be in the back line and do Aphelios things and just burn everybody down. And if they do lock it in, oh no. What? Okay, I don't mind it. Unconventional, but I don't mind it. You saw that on your screen. 0 games played, 0 games banned, 0 games won. Miss Fortune just has now appeared on CBLOL.
I mean, okay, I thought Miss Fortune was strong early in the season with sort of all the lethality buffs. I guess that hasn't really changed. Lethality is still really strong. I'm just surprised to see it. I don't necessarily see... Well, actually, the more I look at it, there is really good setup. There is the Rakan to go in. There's the Counter-Strike to follow up. Shockwave will pull people together. It is technically great setup for Miss Fortune. And she is a lane-dominant pick. I just think it's risky for Smiley to pick lane-dominant. If you ban the Lucian yourself, and then you opt for Miss Fortune, like into Bruncy, that just feels, you know, like a bit of an ego check here.
I would actually say it's more of a... I haven't seen them play on the Miss Fortune, but if you make that choice... it means that you're more comfortable with this champion. So if you're not safe in thinking, on the Lucian, I can deny Bronzy the early game pressure, then go for something that you feel more comfortable with. Usually, especially for long series like this on a best of 5, I like it. Going out for the first game to feel a little more at ease, trying to get things into a rhythm that you're used to makes sense to me. But I'm worried as well because with a Lee Sin on the side of Red, that's just going to be so much early game pressure into the bot lane because they know that VKS have that little bit of a weak link in regards to those together, that the Miss Fortune is still very immobile. You have a Rakan, but how much can the Rakan save you?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I agree. I'm a little bit worried about this Miss Fortune pick. I mean, at least Aphelios feels like he's got a bit more agency depending on what guns he runs. And his burst is, in a way, faster. Miss Fortune has to stand there and actually channel the bullet time, and that's what leaves you vulnerable to potential dives from that Lee Sin or the Ahri that we kind of saw picked up as well. But Sochan and both, as you said, this is game 1, right? Both these teams, they are taking some risks with their draft. On one hand, you've got this Miss Fortune. On the other hand, you've got a Jinx with very little peel, because I'm not expecting to see the Rek'Sai sit back and try and peel for this Ahri. Lee Sin and Ahri, pardon me, they want to go in together. They want to be aggressive. They want to be the enemy's face. Again, not peeling for the Jinx. So it really just comes down to this solo rel from the side of Pro Delta. And as good as Pro Delta has been with his engaged supports, I think I'd actually have preferred that Renata, that they hovered if he was going to be the sole peel for Jinx.
Me too. And RMC, we are into Summoner's Rift. This is our first game of the best of 5 VKS versus Red Kenneds into deciding who's going to be facing Pain Gaming tomorrow in that decider match for Grand Finals. Oh my word. I'm just thrilled to be here today with you.
Yeah, likewise. And, you know, the winner of this one's going to be nice and warmed up for tomorrow. Yes, you don't have a lot of times between games, but at the same time, K-Star's already just faced Pain recently. So, you know what? I'm sure the prep still counts. And for Red, I'm sure, you know, they've also done their homework into tomorrow. So warming up is going to be huge in the early game. Level 1. Interestingly enough, the Samus and Leleko are the ones posturing aggressively onto Aegis. That is not a duo that's going to win the level 1.
Yeah, you're right. Now Leleko gets a deep vision here that is spotted by Aegis. So at least they have some agency on that one. Now Gigo taking damage from FNP. The usual that we have on the top side. Nothing really aggressive from either of these places. But RMC, we need to focus on that level 2 power spike there on the bot side and how they're going to agency around it. Because either of them could go for a little bit of chip damage. But if Smiley can get some sort of upper hand on HP pool, then I think that is a lot good for them.
Agreed. With the Jinx, you're not about the all-in early. You're really trying to abuse the range of your rockets to get any sort of poke. Now, we did see from the Observer that Aegis actually wasn't spotted doing Raptors, and that's actually critical, because now Kate Stars might have the wrong information on where Aegis is going early.
Oh, that's so huge. All right. And there's a all in here already coming out from Gigo and FNB. Both of them dropping fairly low. But Gigo having an upper hand of a potion plus a biscuit, while FNB only has that potion themselves. Now, let's see if that's going to actually change the style that VKS go through here, given that they have not seen Aegis and how they're pathing. Going very slowly and into vertical opposite sides of the map. Now, Jojo could try to go something here. That's damage going out to for Delta. And the Rockets, just to follow it up, as you said, is going to get them down. But it's enough to guarantee that lane priority.
Yeah, and so if you were talking about fact, level 2 power spike, right? Red hit that first, as we expected. This is Brunsey Jojo. The champions, perhaps we didn't expect it, but from the players, we should have. Pro Delta is still stuck at level 1 right now. So if not for the fact they were under turret, I'd have bet my bottom dollar that Jojo's actively looking for that endgame, because they would be able to win that one out.
Oh, definitely, especially with Ignite there, and if they want to try to do something like a knock-up, as you said, not having that knock-up available, you don't even need to use the cleanse on Bronzy or even the flash. It would have to be used aggressively. So this lane priority here is perfectly. They would go for a quick recall if that is the case, or not. Just trying to get a potential bait here, because Aegis is around, went for the full jungle clear. Now on the Gromp positioning here for the bottom side. No vision. We're toggling it here. They could go in for an all-in. They're pushing, thinking that they have reset. And now they're going to take the advantage. Jojo trying to get that one. Aegis going to follow it up as well. And they deny the flash. That is huge. Aegis going to go over the wall and a kill. First blood goes to Bronzy. Now next one could be on Smiley. There is no escape for the Rakan without flash. That is a 2-0 for Red Canids.
And so if you called it earlier, imagine what happens once the pressure, the gang start rolling into Brunsey Jojo. Was this all you had hoped for? Because now, 1 kill onto Brunsey, 1 kill onto Aegis. Normally both on Jinx is nice, but I like one on Aegis, because this guy does actively look to carry, to translate those gold leads into other lanes.
Yeah, they do. That's why they're already in the mid lane. But now here at the top side, FNB taking a little bit of that advantage. Oh my word. There's a charm that connects onto Leleco. The damage could be enough. Ow, the flash is just right there with a little bit of that potion left in the bottle to keep Leleco safe.
Yeah, Greftar opting for the teleport instead of Ignite, something that we commonly see.
Oh, let's watch that again.
With mid laners. But what's beautiful here is the fact that Aegis is coming from their side, and that's done right now. It actually pulls Pro Delta back over the wall, so he had to burn the flash to get away. And even then, it kind of doesn't matter. Red is more than happy to flash over, get these early kills as well. They get the lane shove, so it's 2 kills plus a missed wave plus a better recall timing, honestly, for Brunsey.
Oh my word. And look at FNB just taking advantage of that absolute powerhouse that the Rek'Sai is in the patch, currently taking absolute control over the lane. Could just freeze here to try and slow it down on the push, forcing the TP out from Gigo whenever they come back. There they are. And with the first Drake of the game on the board and Void Grubs already spawned, both junglers are on the same side of the map. Could try to contest this together. But we have a different rotation from Grefstar going out for this vision on the bottom river, while the Summons is focusing on these 3 Void Grubs. Aegis doesn't seem to be interested at the moment.
Yeah, the question is if Red even are aware that it's being done. As FNB is roaming down, they should start to see the tremor sense and know that it's being taken. It's just probably too late for them to be significantly ahead on that.
Oh, okay, nice protection here coming out from Pro Delta, getting that knock up onto Jojo. And even though the engage came out from Red, they were behind. Oh my god, Leleco! Immediately, when you have that level 6 on Grefstar, they say, hey, just come here right now. It doesn't matter if we don't take those Void Grubs. As a matter of fact, FNB even steals the last one, so that's going to be divided 2 for VKS and 1 for Red. And Aegis again with that much mobility of Elysian already on the Drake. Now bottom side, there's a Hextech Flash from Jojo trying to engage as they have full control over the bottom wave.
Yeah, and with the priority you got from Greftar in that kill in mid lane, Brunsey and Jojo up in perma pushing, it's such an easy trade for Aegis to be able to make top side. Gigo's got to be careful. One thing we have to note, the reason why Rek'Sai is so oppressive is because of the regeneration. So all this damage that Gigo's taking, that'll stick. All the damage FNB is taking, and he's not taking much, that won't stick. You'll be able to regenerate. We get a replay of this. And I love the fact Greftar hits 6 and immediately just goes in. And For the Orianna Nocturne combo, you need both the jungle and the mid laner to be 6, but the lanes will usually hit 6, the solo lanes will hit 6 before the jungle will, and that's why we saw Aegis, who wasn't level 6 yet, or was only level 5, is still only level 5. The call just gets made to punish immediately, and I love that. That's your window, and Red are fully abusing it.
Oh yeah, they see the windows and they jump right through it. It's very clear that they know exactly when and where to be going after this mid lane, especially because they knew that Laleko was still with their flesh down. Now Jojo coming out from the top side, actually, with a Hextech Flash could go into Laleko trying to get something, just scaring them out. But it was a 4-man rotation though.
Yeah, it feels like, okay, in CBLOL a lot of times when you get to the Academy promotion, every player just starts ganking that lane. That's the CBLOL welcome. Guys, Aleko's been in CBLOL for half a split. We don't need to give him the CBLOL welcome right now in playoffs.
No, not anymore, not anymore. He's really used to it and having to fill out those shoes for Tukwila in the previous part of the regular season and doing so well at that. He's fine, guys. He knows the warm welcome. And now Laleko is exposed. We're going out to this more bottom side of the river here into the mid lane, so more safe towards Aegis having that vision and backup from the Summers as well, and Prodelta coming from the bot side, while the Misfortune is trying her best to push out that wave. Not that far behind on CS, but still a little bit.
And it's worrying as a Misfortune when you start to fall behind the Jinx, because one of the strengths of Misfortune is her laning power, and you ran press the attack, so you're looking for these 2v2s, for these 1v1 situations. Bruncey's up significantly, and sure, Misfortune still has a lot of impact in team fights later on, but Jinx will have more if she lives. So it feels like for Smiley, the fact that you're not winning lane means that your fate's kind of out of your control, and now it relies on Desamis and Laleko.
And one thing as well I noticed, RMC, is the fact that not just you have the Misfortune not having that priority in lane, you're also talking about a Misfortune that has 3 biscuits and the refill potion. So thinking that they were going to be on the lane for as long as they could, but as soon as there was an opening from Red, they got taken down, so there was no time to heal back up. And considering they have a Jinx instead of the Misfortune, that is just so good from them.
Yeah, it's really not been about the poke or the range advantage from Bruncey. He's not trying to poke out Smiley. He's just flat out CSing better. He's letting you shove in. He's putting all the risk onto you, right? Because as you pointed out, the last time the fight happened, it was 100-0. It was a jungle gank. And now with Greftar being post level 6 with that Spirit Rush enabled as well, Smiley and Prodelta are not as worried about laning anymore. Or about the lane trades anymore. It's really about who's going to come down and visit this lane. Who's going to 100-0 you in that all-in.
Yeah, and finally we have the level... well, 7 in this case, but the ultimate available is my point, coming out from Desamis. So whenever we have the gank is going to be much better, because we knew that it relied heavily, as you said, on both level 6 there for Desamis and Laleko for their Orianna Nocturne combo. Now we have VKS fully rotating here for the top side. Still a couple of seconds for those Void Grubs to respawn. They are interested in trying to get some of that upper hand that could be given to Giko with the help of Void Mites in split pushing the late game.
And if anything, I'm actually a little bit worried for Smalley here. Not only is Kate Stars a bit behind on the rotate, but Prodelta did roam up top, which is fine, good. You know, they have the numbers to match Red, but it's very unsafe to leave the Misfortune alone against a Rek'Sai who is a level up right now. And with that shove, FNB actually roaming out as you called, so to get that topside prior, get that numbers advantage for Red.
Yeah, and they have gotten there before, as you said, RMC, Prodelta trying to clear out that vision. But if you clear out the vision and you don't have the levels or manpower to be contesting, then it doesn't really mean that much. Now, Red has confirmed the first 2 of those Void Grubs and now committing for the last one, given the amount of outnumbering they are doing over VKS. There's still this rotation for VKS here on the top side, trying to at least set something up and maybe use the Smiley as bait. And that's the Orianna Nocturne combo. That's so much damage with a bullet time to follow it up. Now the auto attack could be double kill. No, denied by Laleko, but still 2 for 0 here for VKS. Finally becoming online.
And why did the Nocturne Ori combo ever go out of style? So you look how clean that was.
Right?
Aegis couldn't even get the Dragon's Rage off to protect Bruncey from the full up from Smalley there. And Jojo gets dove under turret from this trio.
And even wasted their ultimate as well, so you don't have that Magnet Storm for whenever Jojo is back. That's going to be huge when you're trying to go advancing against Bruncey, because you mentioned it in the draft. Bruncey only really has the Rel to protect her.
Yeah, and once again, this is not the Tom Kench. It won't be able to save you from a Nocturne or a combo. So Brunsey is kind of on his own. And now with the combination, the jungle mid duo from Kate Stars online, it feels like Red have to kind of play in the windows. And I'm still looking at Greftar Aegis, this duo, the cousins, right? This was a duo that really took Red to that championship back in 2021, back in 2022. And the Lee Sin Ari specifically, that is a pick duo.
Mm-hmm. Now picking out here is going to be, oh, a knock-up dodge there by Gigo and trying to get the stun. Managed to do it. They're going to burn the ignite, but Gigo is still alive. There's a super mega death rocket from across the map, but it doesn't really land. And Desamis, alongside Delta, are around, so if necessary, they could help it out. But the most important thing for Red is that they got the second Drake.
That's Laleko coming in. Oh, no, it's Gigo. Okay, no, he just...
Okay.
Right back in. I thought that's wondering, like, why are we rotating Laleko down here right now? You can't last against FNB. They're just picking up the waves, and we get a replay of sort of the way this dive goes down, and it's just picture perfect. There is literally no counterplay from Red right here. And sure, even if you get the Dragon's Rage off, I'm going to be honest, Brunsey doesn't get out right there. A simple dissonance from Laleko would give the speed up required to actually catch up onto this Jinx. Brunsey, the flash was already used, so you're dead to rights, and that combo is repeatable. I don't see a way for Red to really answer that. Even if you're grouped up as 5, it's just going to hurt more with that shockwave.
It even makes even more sense now. Okay, just a second here. Maybe Jojo could get picked off. Now, Greftar is the main target, though, trying to get the shockwave set up with the combo in the summons. But just finishing out my point that we have this composition, of course, nailed down for Nocturne and Laleko together. But you still have Smiley that could have the little bit of an early game pressure. Didn't happen. It's okay. Yep. They still have Nocturne Oriana.
Exactly. Right. And he got it off of Greftar.
Again, it's so easy to do it. There's the fear that lends out as well, but the charm was still enough to try to disarm them on Desamis, and going out for Delta to get a knock up onto Aegis could be enough. A 1Q, there it is. And on the top side is going to be Desamis getting taken down by those 3 players of Red, and 1-for-1.
Okay, that was an interesting choice. I think Greftar is not who you want to use that combination on. Gigo.
Taking damage again. FNB can do it. And as you said, look at that healing. It's just nuts.
Yeah, unfortunately, FNB's damage isn't nuts. So Gigo isn't dying. He will lose over time in this sort of split push situation right now. Gigo not at the point where he can just kind of all in and win out the extended trades, which means Rek'Sai wins that out. But also there's very little kill threat from FNB right there. If I'm not seeing Greftar or Brunsey, I don't think Gigo goes down.
All right, 3 members already here from Red, 50% of the Herald, and the Summits on the other side of the map, so there's going to be an easy takedown. They were spotted, so they're at least aware of this case, but considering there's still 2.5 minutes for the next Drake to spawn, this can't be responded by anything, really. The waves are very stalemate on all lanes.
Yeah, and props to Kate Stars for kind of constantly shoving out, but props to Red for still finding the objectives despite the fact that Kate Stars is shoving out. And I feel like for Kate Stars, my big question is how are they going to use this Herald? They need to find a way to maximize the benefit of it. Now, we do see, again, Greftar kind of getting picked. It's 60% of his health. That's going to become worse for Greftar as the game goes on because you'll get more damage on the Laleko and Desamis. But at the same time, I don't feel like the Ahri is the right target for this. Because you went for Greftar and because he got out, once that burst is down, the threat from Kate Stars is simply not there. We talked about Smiley having or not having had the early game pressure. That means he also doesn't have the sustained damage to really carry these fights against Brunsey right now. And if Brunsey's not threatened, Brunsey gets the carry.
Yeah. Just as easy as that. And we know how much, of course, the combo, specifically Nocturne Oriana, do well in a late game, mid game, everything in regards to team fights. If you have those abilities up, you're going to have the upper hand on the side of VKS. And on top of that, Laleko is really an Oriana expert. And so far, of course, both of them executing the combo really, really well. And finally, VKS finding some of that push here in the mid lane. It's going to be immediately replied. None of these outer turrets in any danger to be taken out. Maybe there's a fight here on the bot side, FNB taking damage. But of course, just going to heal it back up.
Yeah, and if anything, Gigo has to be a little bit careful. We're starting to hit the point where Gigo's Jax is starting to hurt in an extended lane. Maybe there's a chance. It's a 4v3 down here.
Yeah, finally it is. And a TP that comes back as well. There's a make it rain. just to slow them down, and a TP could be wasted. Grefta ends up not utilizing anything on a team fight because it was all dispersed. Now 30 seconds of the timer into the Drake. Now, they need to contest this one or else it's going to be a soul point.
And that's why, to me, I actually agree with what Red did right there, expending the teleport from Grevthar. It's not ideal, but if you lose FNB at that point, it puts you in a really bad spot for this upcoming Drake fight. With all the big team fight ultimates available, I do favor K-Stars in trying to take this, but they need to make sure they actually have the vision to get on Brunsey.
Okay, there's a Herald trying to get some attention. They're going in very deep, and Aegis is going to get taken down immediately. But there's also a bullet time that connects just a little bit. 1 for 1 so far. Now goes in. Gigo taking that damage and trying to do something more about this. Now Rek'Sai goes into the Herald to even get more of that pressure into the tower with the Void Mites. But it's just a delay of this rotation for the River. Now the Red has that dominance and presence here. There's still some vision from VKS. FNB could get taken off here. Very close, goes in. That's
attack though.
And it's actually instead Delta getting taken down immediately. Now goes Rek'Sai into them, and FNB takes Gigo down. Now, Smiley, you have to flash away. King Jinx is still kiting you down. There's no Super Mega Death Rocket, but if there was, that would be a dead misfortune. Red comes out on top.
Yeah, and with that, Aegis back up as well. The stalemate is over. Red successfully stalled long enough to pick up Soul Point. And it's a Hextech Soul Point. So, John, we get... So the start of this fight's interesting because we are trading a jungler for a mid laner, and Aegis, I love this, goes in and instantly takes Leko out. We talk so much about the Nocturne Ori combo, but you need both of them there, and because it's Red who pulled the trigger first, they win out. Normally, that's not good if you want to go for Dragon because now you don't have a smite, but look at what Red do. They're not committing to that Dragon. They're not giving a chance for a steal. Instead, once the burst is down, look at Brunsey. Just untouched throughout this fight, gets the free fire, and Smiley, bullet time's already down, and once the bullet time's down, even with the Kraken Slayer build, it's so hard for you to actually just stand there and deliver the same sort of auto attacks that a Jinx, a Zeri, an Aphelios would get to do in comparison.
Oh no, they got it. That's gonna be a perfect insect onto the Chompers, and they shut down for Brunsey. Oh no, the misfortune is showing her flaws now.
Yeah, and you know what? Aegis right now is popping off as well on this Lee Sin. There's been a lot of questions about Aegis because he demands so much resources away from Grefthar. Brunsey is dead.
That's immediately another shutdown onto Brunsey, and they're using that knock-up to go away. Jojo escapes. That it's just the single thing of, oh, that's a Jinx, down.
Yeah, and normally I'd actually kind of question that because you're going for that pick onto Brunsey right there. What do you get after that? Right? There's no Baron, there's no Dragon on the table. Smiley wasn't with you, so the push isn't particularly strong. But on the other hand, oh, we get a replay of the insect. This is just expo.
So good. Look at the position of those Chompers. Oh.
Yeah, and Aegis honestly could just solo him out anyways. But again, you know, it's the question of what are we looking for with these sort of picks, with these sort of plays, right? And for the side of VKS, I'd actually have preferred they hold that till Smiley was back up, and then maybe you get push. You know, maybe you get a bit of a turret. As it stands, you don't really find anything.
Ooh, that was trying to be a snipe attempt here onto Gigo's life. Aegis backing them up, could try to go for something, yet Shockwave, the Sonic Wave doesn't land, excuse me. This Amaze is going to go to help, but they're not really committing to this one, just giving away that tier 1.
Yeah, they can't really do anything. Unfortunately, Gigo already at half health, and again, I think Desamis doesn't want to burn the Paranoia, even if you did. There's no guarantee. These are kind of tanky members. It's got to be on Aegis, and even then, he's so mobile, I don't think Desamis can stick onto him. So bot side, going the way of Red Cannons. Top side, Grefthar was applying a ton of pressure onto Leko as well. So it feels like Red have somehow pulled themselves ahead in the individual lanes, in the split fights and small skirmishes.
That's very true, and that's gotten them at least shy over 1,000 gold ahead. But what's most important is those Drake stacked that they have already on Soul Point. This really shouts for VKS having to contest the next fight, and they need to land a good bullet time, or else they really don't have damage coming out from Smiley. It's going to heavily rely on to just the Summers and Leleko there. And look at the chart, as you mentioned. There's just a little bit for VKS, then Red dominant early game into VKS fighting it back. And it's just very funny of a chart.
Yeah, I know Trajan just talked about this before, and I fully agree with him. We need numbers to know the scale of that. Like, it looks like the swing is pretty big. I don't think it's that big. I think they've been like back and forth
really
less than 2,000 gold. And now we're up to a 1.5k gold again as Grefthar takes that topside turret. Red is doing such a good job slowly just pulling Kate Stars apart. And Kate Stars faced with a really tough choice of, hey, do we burn the Paranoia to cover our losing side lanes and stop this push and not have it for the team fight? Or do we save it for the team fight and the objectives when objectives are actually up right now? Baron up right now, Dragon in minute 30.
I think that's exactly what Red has been read. That was not intentional. That's how they read VKS in regards to they should be fighting for the team fights. That's why we're going to just eat the crumbs, all of the sides, take those tier ones, open up more space. Even the tier one in mid lane is also very close to getting taken down. Whenever Brunty gets a little snippet of it, then it's going to be very, very exposed. Now with the Fog of War, they have no vision on the Summers. Leleco could bait this one out, but Aegis decides to go for a reset, and they are looking to go for it. No, not really, just afraid of not knowing where Aegis is.
Yeah, and I think this is the last sort of top play Kate Stars gets to make right now, because Dragon's coming up in 45 seconds. And with the speed, with the damage teams can put out as well, trying to split push the teleport gets a little bit risky. The channel time, 4 seconds, usually means somebody's dead by the time you're done channeling.
That's true. And Red has all the priority here on the bottom river, going out for that Drake, spawning in 30 seconds. They have to make this fight count here, VKS, as they are trying to take out that vision themselves. But Aegis has a good position here on the tri-bush, trying to scout out where Gigo is. And just look at the amount of burrows that you have for FNB there on the rec side, trying to get that backline access as much as quickly as possible. Aegis, maybe Graftar going to get a charm here, going out over the wall. There's a flash, but it still connects.
Rocket.
There's a super mech Death Rocket to get an assist as well. But that goes an immediate stasis from Bronzy, and a double kill for Leleco with that immense Nocturne Orianna combo, trying to get something else. It's 3v2 on this one. Aegis flashes away. Graftar is in trouble. No Spirit Rush to get them out of this one. There's a flash you mentioned. What a great dodge. But there's a backup that comes out from FNB, and now a shutdown that takes Leleco down instead. And Red looks to come out on top with an unofficial ace. No, an official ace.
It's official, and it's so to boot as well. Red able to just turn right back around. And it feels like all the early advantages Red built up, they knew you'd have to be there. They set up better. And Kate Stars, you just challenged Red, the super team, the most mechanical, one of the most mechanical teams in CBLOL, to a hands check.
Yeah, they did. And the numbers weren't bad for VKS, but as soon as you have FNB coming back, the fight was done. It was absolutely done. That's a TB. Speaking of the monster, coming out here with Jojo in a flank, going out to Gigo. There's a knockup that should be followed up by another one. And the Chum as well, just to clean it all up, trying to get away. A counter-strike to deny some damage. Buying time for Delta to get there, but there's not much of a help. Smiley still arriving. Bullet time is available, but there's Smiley getting a knockup as well from FNB. And the Super Mega Death Rocket has dodge by Gigo, and they could get out of dodge here if they don't commit to it on the other side. There's the Orianna Nocturne combo again, taking out Aegis that was trying to get there for the party, and it only becomes a 1-0 for VKS.
The chaos here. We do get a replay of the bot side fight, the critical fight that kind of broke this open, and huge props for finding the pick on Gigo. But watch Brunty. Brunty actually bought a Seeker's arm guard at this point in the game. So when the lights go out, he goes stasis. And that's beautiful. The problem is Leleco did it better. Leleco held the shockwave, didn't burn it early, and that's what catches Brunty coming out of it. Now, this fight looks like a 2v3. It should be over, but FNB was just hunting Smalley, and Greftar right here broke ankles, bought so much time, and pumped out the entire damage of the fight. He did the most damage in that particular fight, able to come back in, clean up as well. So Red, this is where they benefit. This is where they look best. When they're skirmishing, when each individual person gets to do their own thing and they don't have to worry about, you know, front to back, healing for anybody else. It's just go time. It's just dive time. It's just we find kills.
And the one thing I'm worried is when FNB is on a fight, just like we see here, is for most of that fight in the bot lane, FNB was just hunting down Smiley. So whenever there is 5v5, the VKS should be afraid, because this Rek'Sai is a monster now, going in with a Rex stack, Hex stack, Portal, but it's for Delta, it's not actually the jungler, so you're not going to get this one. Red confirms the Baron, now going out, lights out, trying to get some of that damage to Summers, but there's a charm immediately. The shockwave is not there to connect, and now Smiley's gonna get knocked out by FNB, and the damage from the Summers is going to land as well. But it's not enough. The Summers is down now with all of the damage dealers for VKS. You can't do anything. Leleco is the last one standing, and they guarantee the Baron. Oh, Red.
They stopped
Red.
this? They stopped it?
They did. And now the ultimate coming out from F&B to try and chase Leleco down. It's important that you do. I think this is a good target for you. But you still have to recognize when tier 2 becomes too deep of a hole. Not for the red side, it seems.
He just dodged under the turret. FNB doesn't care about turrets. No turret is too much for FNB right now. Leleco, though, able to disengage with the dissonance was huge. And right here, it's just too slow, unfortunately, for VKS, recognizing the Hey Baron's Den. And Brunsey, watch his flash when Desamis goes into him. Because the shockwave did come out, but a little too late and doesn't actually catch Brunsey. So now you've got the space, and once that happens, without the threat, look at what VKS do, right? We said before, it's all about the burst with them. It's all about finding the priority target. If not, Smalley just can't create enough space. He's too close up, and Red just lean out.
And there's something about how Red is playing those team fights. They're never together. The bullet time is never worth it for Smiley. And when they get in range to do those auto attacks, they're just dead. You have knock up on Jojo, you have knock up on FNB, everything to really counter it down. And now they've gotten themselves into that 4,000 gold lead. Q getting picked off, and a flank huge coming out from Aegis as well. The charm's going to land with Q following it up on the damage. There's Delta trying to help. The Super Mega Death Rocket hits, one auto attack. Okay, Sonic Wave is going to be the one to seal the deal. And another one taken down as well. FNB is on fire.
And the push just keeps on going from Red. FNB zoning out 1v3 in the back, and just the threat of FNB engage has forced Desamis, Leleco, and Smalley all the way back to turret. I'm expecting to see bullet time just used to wave clear at this point. I don't think you can't even do it because FNB is threatening Smalley too much.
Yes, they are. FNB, Jojo together. They are the huge menace for a misfortune. And now with tier 3 and inhibitor down, they can safely take those Hextech gates out of the base. They still have Baron buff for 30 seconds still to push out those waves fairly easily. Now, how do you even play this as VKS? Because Smiley can really find those auto attacks, and when you don't hit the shockwave combo, there's no damage.
Yeah, but if you land it, I still believe you can absolutely burst out Brunsey at this point in the game. Greftar has Azonia's Hourglass, but also could potentially be bursted out. And I feel like for Keat Stars, don't get picked. This is step number 1. Gigo should be fine. Yeah, they just need to play patient. 1 minute is their chance at that Elder. We've seen games swing on that Elder before. Granted, Kate Stars took 3 to end the game against Los Grandes, but generally speaking, that's the one you kind of go for. And for Red, you pointed out correctly that they've done such a great job kind of splitting the fight, never being there for the bullet time to clump up and punish all of them. But at Elder, at Baron, those are your prime opportunities where Red has to clump to take those objectives.
For sure. FNB has a position here over the wall, trying to get some of that space. Lights out straight onto Aegis. There's a bullet time that connects with a shockwave, but now FNB's in the back line, focusing out on Smiley. There's a lot of shooting, but there's a lot of shooting on FNB as well. There's a magnetic storm coming out from Jojo, and it does so much work. Now continuing forward, it's already Predelta down. They could take out next is the Summers. Gigo is on the short list. They're gonna go in, and a TP from FNB as well to just clock it out. Maybe even try to find Smiley in the jungle. They're so close. Can they do it? They do it, and they're going to keep on pushing. FNB, though, could get taken down immediately, and they do. But there's a TP coming back here to try and defend. There's a knock-up straight onto Leleco, and if Aegis can connect this one, Leleco's down. But there's a double kill that goes out to Leleco instead. The tier 3, because this tier 3 is done. Now the Nexus turret standing is still there to protect, but Smiley is gonna go down. RMC, the base is absolutely split open, but what a absolute mess of a fight.
And things aren't done yet. Sochan, Elder is available and on the table. Both teams looking to reset and rush this one down, but Smalley's still dead for 30 seconds. And you contrast that to Red, where FNB and Jojo will be up in 10. Kate Stars, they pick a fight early, and I feel like they pulled the trigger maybe way too early there, because now you have a numbers advantage as Elder will be threatened.
Yeah, and you have Smiley still on the 20-second timer. The bullet time should be available by the time they come back, but still, how are you going to be able to connect anything when you're going for that fight and outnumbered with pressure and vision coming out from Red? But there's also vision denied here, coming out from VKS, trying Aegis to really scout out the Samis. They're able to do so, and they denied all of the vision from VKS on the pit. They have to really expose themselves. FNB is in the back line. Predelta could get picked off. The Samis is trying to get into position for a potential steal. The Drake already on 40% of HP. The knockup doesn't land from Predelta. Gigo trying to get something out of this, but this Samis is waiting for the right moment for the paranoia to actually go there, and everybody disengages.
Yeah, Red don't want to risk this, and because they opted to slow it down and kind of play bait, Smalley's actually back up now, and now the threat for the team fight is there. They need to clear that ward in the back. Predelta is doing his level best right now to try and give whatever vision he can so that there is the risk at least of Kate Stars going in.
Yeah, and they're doing a very good job at that. Gigo try to lend one themselves. There it is. So some of that vision is going to be enough. A knockup goes out to FNB. Jojo could follow it up, but now they have to commit to something or else they're going to lose the Elder. Trying to go for a left flank. No, they reset it again, and Red just doesn't want that one more combo to connect.
Yeah, Red are playing, I feel like, almost overly respectful at this point, but they really don't want to throw the game, and Elder is the one place to do it. They are waiting for the minions, the supers to push in double wave as well. Aegis.
Oh, it's gonna go down. Oh my word. That's gonna be an extra story down while they're going out for this fight. Now Red taking out damage here. Gigo's falling low on health. The bullet time connects partially, and now Gigo is the one taken down instead. Smiley is on the other side of the map, and Predelta is also gonna go down. It's only Lelego with the Savis trying to clear out that base, and the Elder Drake looks to be Red. If they decide to even do it, they're going for the base instead. It's on 50% HP. They can take it right now.
Yeah, they're just going in, pushing in. There's only Leleko and Desamis available. Like, sure, great, the combo is there. It doesn't matter. You only take out one person.
Yeah, Paranoia to go in with your shockwave, but then FNB just says, I'm just doing my work here. It's God's work, and it's all right. Now they decide to just take Leleko just out of pure pleasure, and you know, that's what they're doing. They were just keeping it. Bronzy wasn't even attacking the Nexus because they can. And RMC, what a match to start out this best of 5.
What a clean game. And I need to correct myself. You know, I thought Red was playing overly respectful. No, Red were playing really smart. I didn't even recognize that the supers were pushing in right there.
The minions.
And Red did. So they knew that Kate Stars were up a creek with no paddle. And unfortunately for Kate Stars, that was everything that came up. Exactly. And huge props to Red as well. That's what's terrifying, right? You gave away the 100% ban Orianna to Kate Stars. That was supposed to be their key piece. The Nocturne Ori looked amazing, right? Every time it went down, it felt like it was a critical pick. Either you get a kill or immediately force somebody out. We mentioned how Leleko was so patient with the Shockwave to find Bruncy repeatedly throughout that series. But none of that mattered in the face of the monsters that are Red Cannons. And if this doesn't work, I'm a little bit scared for Kate Stars because I don't know where you go from here.
So am I. I am definitely on the same page as your MC because we saw a hover on the Aphelios that personally would have worked so much better than the Misfortune. Probably, you don't rely as much because we know they were trying to at least have some sort of lane pressure that didn't really come together.
Nope.
It's fine. But then you want to rely on their Shockwave Paranoia combo with bullet time on top of it. That just didn't connect at any single moment. Of course, just the Orianna and Nocturne side of it. The bullet time wasn't really there. So if you don't have the Misfortune doing damage, what is the Misfortune doing? Is it just becoming a bait where FNB just goes into the back line and solos them out? It's very unfortunate. I believe the Aphelios would have had much more control over the fight because it doesn't have to be a set cone. You don't have to be absolutely still in place to get those plays. And RMC, what are the changes here? I think the Rek'Sai cannot come through.
Agreed. I think Rek'Sai is going to be kind of really high prio. Interesting thing to note as well, I think, between the Gigo FNB matchup. I think Gigo did a good job in that matchup, honestly. Like, he didn't lose too much pressure. He wasn't really losing too many plates either in the top side. It was only when Greftar and Leko rotated top side that we started seeing a lot of those plates drop. But I think that's just the difference between these two teams. The fact that Kate Stars need Gigod to carry. Red don't need FN Boss to step out. He can just sit in his nice comfy CEO office and watch the rest of the team carry. So FNB just needs to nullify everything Gigo needs to do. And even if Gigo gets a Rek'Sai, my fear is that, sure, great, you've got the winning lane matchup. Now what? I don't think FNB is going to fall and crumble. And I don't think Rek'Sai is a champion that can carry.
Yeah, it's very different. I think the fact that they got the Misfortune was also very simple for FNB to just go into the back line and neutralize them. So it was something that Red well executed. And of course, Red, I don't want how it sounds. They're that's what they did, though. And while we get things ready for our next match of our best of 5, we're going to go into a short break. So stay hydrated and stay seated because more CBLOL English action is going to come out just after this.
So hold our heads up high and beat the drum to what we love. Risk the fall, oh, we have felt it all come crashing down from far above. Stars are rising, countless worlds colliding, only one will take it all. Can we bring to fall the giants? Can we make the final call? We are the ones to ignite the darkened skies. The champions of the world that we defy. A solo ride of the few who rise up high, and we all fight at the last light.
welcome back to our second game of the best of 5, Red Tennis versus VKS. I'm still Surfjan with RMC here, and we saw a dominant performance from Red, not in regards to early game pressure, but in regards to macro. Oh,
And Red just, it feels like they're improving so much through this playoffs. Greftar winning MVP for that game 1, and deservedly so. I think Aegis and Greftar had an amazing series, or an amazing game last game. Because a lot of times we look at this Red roster and we go, oh, you know, it's Brunsey, it's Jojo in the bot lane, one of the best bot lanes. Oh, it's F and Boss on the top side, who's going to take control of everything. But last game was really more about Aegis and Greftar. Aegis constantly finding those picks, and Greftar as well, kiting so well and pumping out so much damage in those fights. A lot of times with Ahri, you feel like she's good at skirmishing, not so good at team fights. Well, Greftar, I wouldn't say he changed my mind, but he's getting there.
he sure is. I think I'm on the same road, RMC. And I think that one point in particular where you had Greftar going over the wall with a flash, just buying time for FNB to come back to the fight with Aegis, that was so good. And you're right, like, you don't really expect the Ahri to be doing as much damage, but it's just the consistency of how Greftar maintains dancing around the fight, doing damage, but also not getting taken down immediately. That guarantees that you have all of those Qs doing the true damage and just stacking it up. While on the side of VKS, we had a Nocturne Orianna combo that worked wonders in a few I don't know, 15 minutes of game, and then afterwards it was just lacking the damage, unfortunately. Sometimes not connecting, or sometimes just not really landing with the bullet time. So, unfortunately for them, it was just Red deciding well how to position on those team fights, and we are sure that Coach CL is going to be taking that into consideration on how they draft on this next game.
And before we toss to a break, I was saying I really don't know what K-Stars are going to do to fix this. Because let's make this, I feel like K-Stars as a team, or individually, their players played well. There's nobody I look at and say, oh, you really crapped a bit. Even Smalley, who really didn't have much of an impact, that's kind of what I expected from Smalley on a Misfortune. I just don't think the pick is him, unfortunately. So, but look at the draft. You're talking about, okay, maybe play the Aphelios, that's better. I agree with that. I don't know if it solves all their problems. And that's why I'm not a coach. And thankfully, I'm not in CL's position, because Coach CL has to try and figure out, what do we do in this case? Like I said, I don't think it was draft alone. There are small improvements there, but I think it's more than just draft right now. And that's something that's really hard to fix between games in a best of 5 like this.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and that's why it gets the even more interesting best of 5s. They are tiresome. They are the staple of where teams on CBLOL just look completely different from regular season, either for the good or for the worse. And I feel like VKS has performed well so far, coming out as first seed. Struggled a bit against Loss on their 3-2 that they got. Game 5 that Loss actually got them to. And it just feels a little bit on the side of VKS, a little bit more difficult to guarantee that mid to late game converting into a closure. And I think that's where Red just went straight on.
And going into draft, you can see that K-Stars, despite their loss, have opted to remain on blue side. The bans, I think, are the same as well. And the Ori first pick coming through from them. I don't hate it so much. I still think the Nocturne Ori is good for them. It's still a massive threat. So if they want to keep that as the foundation for their composition, I'm okay with it.
Me too. And that's the response that Red has. They're going for the Ari again, and the deny on the Nocturne would be sensational. As you mentioned, the combo was very well executed by Desamis and Laleko together, so if they can deny that one, it just really breaks the composition at their ankles, making for CL having to decide on what dance path they're going to go for. And of course, Greftar already doing so well in the Ari, you wouldn't expect anything different from this game. The deny instead of the Nocturne goes to a Rakan that was played by Predelta.
For a second, I thought, oh, Coach Kalunga is cooking. I actually would have liked the Nocturne takeaway, because I think Aegis has shown that he's such a good Nocturne player himself as well. And with the Ahri, it's a really good dive threat to potentially come through, albeit not the initiation that it is with an Orianna. And now I expect K-Stars to just go for that Nocturne anyways. But ooh, that's true, actually. Red picked the Jinx last time, denied it. Smalley's getting this. This is a huge comfort pick for him.
Yes, I think we mentioned maybe there was a difference between what Smiley felt on the Misfortune versus the Aphelios. Okay, they designed the complete bot lane that Red had in the previous game, now being the Jinx plus the Rel, but it does mean the Lover's Duel is available with that deny coming through as the Rakan. the Zaya is also going to be there. We know that Bronze plays really, really well on the Zaya since all of the games we've seen in regular season. But I wonder where we go next from here. Because at this time, we already had junglers in the previous game already selected. What is the path do you think they're going to go for now?
Well, I suspect both teams are looking for jungle and top at this point. Patch 14.6, Rel can still jungle on this patch. It's not terrible, but I do think the Rel into Rakan is a really solid pickup. So for Desamis, the Vi is no longer an option. I think I'd like to see something like a Xin Zhao or Volibear. Some sort of early game pressure for Kate Stars right now to bridge that Jinx. And ideally something that's pretty easy to pilot into the Ahri as well, because Grevtar had such a standout game there. On the side of Red, yeah, the Lee Sin ban from K-Stars makes a lot of sense. I think that is another duo you can look for. But you could also go for the Vi, I think, to come through. It pairs well with the Ahri in terms of the 2v2 in the mid lane. You can immediately shut down one person. And it gives you a way to get onto that Jinx later where she has no counterplay.
Yeah, I really like it. That's going to be followed up and finished in the second round of bans as a Jarvan for the side of VKS. Also on that same route of being aggressive early game, Red is going to straight away go for the Rex side that was not banned in this match, and it was just so good from FNB in the previous one. And I feel like I wouldn't be mad to see, for example, from VKS, something you mentioned the Vi. I wouldn't be sad to see a Sejuani either if you're just really going to go
I'm
for
an idiot.
Wait, is it? Oh, yeah, right there. You're right.
I forgot.
Wait, hold on. They just picked everything so fast, and it's an Udyr plus a Janna.
Okay. The Janna is not something we see too much of, but I actually like it. I'm thinking she's low-key, actually kind of strong, especially with these hyper carries like Jinx, like Zeri. The disengage is going to be really nice. It resets forces Grevtar away as well. And for Kate Stars, Udyr is something that's sort of fallen out of favor in CBLOL, but it is still very lane dominant. And FNB says, you know what? I don't care about Udyr. I'm not going to interact with it. I'm just going to pick Sion and Hyperscale. And now, if Gigo wants to have relevance in lane against FNB, he has to go Liandry's Udyr.
Oh, that is a path route, the path change and a half. Now, that's interesting because in this patch, we've all been talking about Rek'Sai top, Rek'Sai top, Rek'Sai top, and now Aegis bringing it back to the roots of Rek'Sai jungle. All right, interesting. I want to go straight into what you started talking about, which is this bot lane with the Janna. I agree with you. I think it's a very good one. You guarantee so much of that peel with shielding, with knockups, and of course the ultimate. Wonderful, and a little bit of healing as well to just top it out. Especially the extra AD that you have there from her shield is just really good to allow for Jinx to have some more, presence in the early game. Of course, she's going to be much slower into scaling, and you want to have her in as much of a presence in the early game, even if it is as assists or a first blood, power spike, whatever it is. I think the Janna can enable that really well. And so what was the jungler again? I forgot for VKS.
Their jungler.
It was the Udyr.
No, Udyr was top.
Udyr? Udyr top. Wait, who was the jungler?
I brain fried for a second here. So it's Rel.
Extra hours.
It's Rel. They flex Rel back to the jungle. So that's why I blanked on it. I was so set with Rel support. And
me too. Yeah. It's Rel again.
Thank you, chat. Yes, chat notified. There's a bit of a delay, so chat actually said it, but then we didn't get to see it in time. So yeah, no.
Oh, that is very funny.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with. I like the red drop for the most part. The only sort of hesitation I kind of have with the Janna coming in at the end there is that while it is a good compositional pick, I don't know if it's a pro delta pick. Right? Like, I think a Pro Delta is a very aggressive player. If you're going to pick him an Enchanter to support somebody, pick something like a Lulu, where you can actually solo kill and put down pressure. Janna literally has 0 1v1 pressure. I can't think of a single support matchup where Janna wins 1v1. And so because of that, I'm a little bit not liking that we're giving Pro Delta of all supports this matchup.
It makes quite a lot of sense. Now we're getting into a second game of our best of 5. VKS is still on the blue side and Red in the red side. Just to make our eyes a little more comfortable with how we pronounce things, I guess. And a huge rotation from both teams. A 4-man. Wow, look at that deep vision.
This is to prevent lane swaps. Because of Sion,
Yeah.
You've got a sign on one side, right? So we've been seeing a lot of lane swaps come through, and they actually read it right. Kate Stars did go for the lane swap. That's why you picked the Janna, for the extra 80 to take the turret faster.
That's insane. What a read from both sides. Not just preemptively there from Coach Steele deciding what was going to be the case in starting out the game, but also by Red to notice how do they respond to it. And Janna helping out massively there with the Summers to clear out their red buff. While on the other side, you have that bit of vertical jungling that we love to see sometimes. Sometimes we don't love, but I think in this case, it's so appropriate.
Yeah, and we're seeing Gigo as well, just kind of go into the jungle, clear everything out. You kind of don't want to lane. This is actually really interesting because lane swap meta, one of the big advantages is you pick it when you think you can take a turret faster, right? Which is why they were doing it against Senna lanes, because Senna is notoriously bad at actually being able to take those turrets. But into a Xayah Rakan, I feel like this is a little bit dicey, and neither Udyr nor Rel takes turrets particularly quickly as well. So I actually don't know if this benefits Kate Stars to go for this swap, at least in the early phase. It does protect your Jinx and give her a much safer scale, but I feel like Xayah is a champion who can match that scaling. Sure, you lose out in range, but Brunsey will be okay with this.
Oh yeah, especially because the response here from Red is also to have FNB in the bot side to go and help even more. And guarantee, look at the amount of playthings that Red has already guaranteed versus VKS. I believe they're still on the first one. Yeah, there they are. And it had to be Gigo going for that late rotation as well to try and match up what FNB had going on. Now in this mid lane, I'm interested to see what's going to be the next course of action for the junglers, considering that this is the only thing that remains the same. The TP going out to the top side from FNB. It's a little interesting. It's a 3v1, and it could be, oh, the tower aggro swap was amazing. And now Smiley gets out, and unfortunately didn't get that first blood themselves, but it's still those 2 assists going out for Smiley and the Summers.
Okay, so on one hand, I do think FNB pulled the trigger a bit too early, actually TPing into lane rather than walking in. Gigo was just about to recall as well. But on the other hand, this is actually not bad for Red, because bot side, Brunsey picks up more plates, and now that bot side's really, really low, and more importantly, first blood went to Pro Delta, of all people. Janna with first blood does not matter.
Oh, look at that nice dodge there on the charm canal from Grefta, and also a flash away here from themselves to get out of the Summer's knockup. Going out to Aegis, a lot of damage that connects, and especially with Pro Delta there, that's even another assist. Kill participation for VKS is huge right now.
Yeah, and that's really, really good. The top side I said was kind of answered. Mid lane, completely unanswered. Aegis feeling a little bit too confident in that burrow, but a great knock up to come through to make sure he couldn't get away. And now Oleko having the advantage in that matchup might be critical. Right here, the difference, they don't see Desamis. And even with the Tremor Sense, they didn't realize that Desamis was there. The flashes are kind of traded, but Aegis is the one who's kind of left up a creek with no paddle. Greftar can't actually get into the action right now, and with the rotations coming through, Pro Delta and Smalley just get here first.
And there's more detail, as you said, with the Tremors to be there in the fog of war, but also not move. It's immaculate. Really like it coming out from Desamis. Now here on the bot side, Aegis is trying to find one of those camps, gonna find the Summers instead, and Giga is also around. I would say that this is Rek'Sai going away. Jojo is gonna back them up, trying to do some damage back, but Aegis is the one getting chunked. It's just gonna be a quick trade, nothing really to come out of it since none of those camps are available.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Aegis, Aegis was thinking about maybe looking for that dive 3v1 sort of situation that we saw up top with FNB, but because the Desamis was in the area, that won't happen. I love this though. They instantly rotate, and they're actually trying to find the pick onto the mid lane instead. No pings came down, but from the way Oleko is backing off, that tells me that Kate Stars is communicating really, really well with each other, saying that, hey, Brunsey's alone down bot. Careful mid. We don't know where Jojo and Aegis went off to.
That's amazing, and it really shows that they are much more of a unit right now, since we saw them going out against Lost, going for 5 games. This one, a little bit of a shake-up in the first game of our best of 5. Now getting into the second one, VKS with a steady read and a lovely execution so far. That's a knock-up going out to Gigo and the Ignite as well. Could take them down. Another auto is going to be enough. And the tower aggro is also swapped beautifully. And Bronze guarantees themselves the kill, while Aegis is guaranteeing the first streak of the game.
Yeah, and while this is happening as well, it surprises me a little bit. Kate Stars are the ones who initiated lane swap, but it feels like Red is fielding it better right now. FNB is surviving up top against Smalley and Pro Delta, no problem. Gigo actually dies. More plates going into the pocket of Red cannons right now. The first Drake picked up by Red. It just feels like Red, I don't know if they necessarily practiced against these sort of lane swaps because it was something that's been and taking the international world by storm a little bit, but it feels like they're super comfortable. Even this dive right here, Gigo's overstaying, right? Like, I think you just need to back off right here. When you eat half your health in poke, you're not going to, like, they took half your health already. The other half is just waiting for cooldowns.
For sure. And we know how both teams have had already such a good grasp on those cooldowns and trying to navigate around it. We saw that happening really, really well in the mid lane in the previous game, going to punish Leleco and this Orianna. They know how great they are at this champion in particular. Now, lanes back to normal. Giga is taking massive damage from FNB. They're on the top side, but we know that Udyr can have good control on the lane. Now, here on the bot side, there is a rotation from the Summers. No vision yet from Red on them. There's going to be a sweeper to just clean this one out and guarantee the next Scuttle Crab while Smiley is pushing it out, shoving topside. FNB still looking to get most of the damage here onto Gigo and doesn't land that Q. So there's going to be some of that back and the back and forth and not really consolidating to anything.
Yeah, we saw the gold charts a little bit. Bruncia, of course, on top, but Gigo actually ahead on FNB in terms of gold a little bit, which does surprise me, considering how things have gone. And I would say that this lane swap really has been net neutral or even a bit negative to K-Stars. I don't think it's worked out. Topside, Gigo, I don't know if he's building towards the Andres yet because he's only sitting on a Ruby Crystal and boots. Actually, I don't think so because we do see the Cloth Camera come through. And if that's the case, like, I really kind of don't fancy this topside going for Gigo. Oh, doesn't know. Aegis
I don't fancy it either. When you have Aegis coming through, there's a flash for the knockup, and they guarantees the Q damage landing, and it's a dead Gigo in just a few seconds.
Yeah, perfectly feeded over to Aegis as well. Aegis will be sort of the sole backline threat onto Smiley later on in these fights. The response from the Samus is to counter invade, take away blue, but I expect you to use your blue to Aegis, so it's still just kind of handshakes all around, and Red finding the extra kill, finding these turret plates, that's a win for them.
For sure. And in gold, they're overall very, very even around the map. Just those 3 void grabs getting them a little bit of an upper hand. Now the Summers has the back line. That's the Feather Storm to try to escape.
Catch.
Now Magnetic Storm leads them on. And with Ignite, Predelta grunts themselves a kill. Now, the one with the most amount of kills in the game.
You see, this is my problem with giving Pro Delta Chana. It's not like he can't play it. It's that he plays it well, he gets the kills, and then what, right? Like, he has no agency on this champion. It's so rough to see. And on this dive, really well executed from the side of K-Stars. Most importantly, the Magnet Storm actually manages to lock down Bruncey, and the Feather Storm wasn't enough. Bruncey perhaps should have flashed immediately, but a lot of times with this Aya, you kind of don't want to burn all your safety nets at the same time, so was trying to space them out. It doesn't work against Magnet Storm at that point. It's just so easy to run down. That said, Bruncey still doesn't fall behind too far in lane. You miss a wave, and you're still even with Smiley.
Yeah, that's a great point as well. And overall, everything is very, very even in regards to CS. Just a little bit behind, maybe one camp or two for Aegis, given that they are going for this rotation here on the bot side once again, because there are no Krogs. They're not going to be able to capitalize on anything aside from maybe focusing on the dive, but they have been seen, and they're going to go in for the Summers with Leleco in a great 4-man rotation. Now there's the Orb trying to get the Summers into a good spot and knock up onto the Summers. There's a flash preemptively away, and there's a shockwave that connects into Bruncey, but it's not enough damage. A TP in the back line and in the front line as well from both of them. A 5v5 is going to continue as we have the Super Mega Death Rocket confirming onto FNB, and the Summers goes down as well. No, actually, Gigo goes down, excuse me. And both top laners, top and jungle are going to be down. I confused that Rek'Sai with the top laner, but it's not anymore as we're going in. FNB is going to go down now. This time for real. The Summers could be following up next. And it is the case. No, it is not. No, my words. The zombie is not going to take the Summers down. It is a 2-for-1.
I think I saw 24 health at lowest point for the Summers. Probably was lower because it took a while to show us that. And K-Stars, I actually really like this idea that they have right now, which is just we're going to camp the bot lane. We know that Smiley is struggling, but we also know that Smiley is our carry. Just shut down Bruncey, and that's why we keep seeing these 4-5-man plays. And Red as well, they recognize that. So they end up calling down the TP from FNB, and Gigo just matches immediately. But the big problem is your AD carries, right? The fact that Smiley on the Jinx, once you get excited, you're really, really strong. And so the first kill onto Aegis, at this point, Red just need to back out. You don't want to fight this. You want to wait for it, get excited to expire. And it takes them a while, but they eventually do just that. The problem is the re-engage here. FNB walks in there, and you're kind of not that tanky yet. You've got health, but you don't necessarily have the armor to deal with this. And then right here, one more attack from anybody.
Oh, the shield.
Samus dies right there. Yeah, but unfortunately, you know what? You thought FNB had it, and I kind of don't like that, because even if FNB gets fed, he's still not going to be the carry of this game. I'd have much rather seen Grefta or Brunsey actually commit to finishing that off and get the kill credit for themselves.
Agree, especially because they have the range advantage anyway, so you're going to be more safe regardless. Now, going out for this vision here of the Drake. Grefta going out for the back line. Could clear the pink ward in the bush. Leko has already spotted them, and Red commits to the Drake. No vision coming out from the Summers. They could try to go in. Of course, it's a Vrel, and you have the Hextech Flesh to pair it up as well. Can they steal this one? Maybe they are a little too early. Super Mega Death Rocket goes wide, and it's going to be Aegis who takes this one. The Summers goes over the wall, and now that Drake is going to be traded by a T1 on the top side.
Yeah, and for Gate Stars, I like this idea. Yeah, we're not hard committing towards fighting this. Let Gigo just split push instead. Get that first brick, especially when you see how low the bot lane turret is. It's living on a hope and a prayer, so getting that extra gold from the first brick is very important.
Oh, for sure. And for a second, I thought we were still on replays for some reason. And we're finally seeing some of FNB come together with that first item almost getting completed. Tier 1 is going to get destroyed by Brunsey on the bottom side. And the Summers could try to get a cancel engage here. Laleko is also there. Now, not Predelta, Jojo is going to get cancelled. And an Insectum even going to go even lower. Feather Storm with a redemption to save them. Not even going to really connect. Wait, whose redemption is that? Oh, it was Janus. It was Predelta's. So it was for extra damage even.
Yeah, all the extra gold that Predelta got, right? He had to build some sort of an advantage with that one there. Gate Stars still pressing in right now because they're all very, very healthy even after that series of plays. And Red, if anything, if you're sticking around, you're the ones putting yourself in a bit of a dangerous position.
Dangerous indeed here for Red, as you're already going in with a Super Mega Dev Rocket onto Garrett.
There's
There's a flash forward from the Summers and a knock-up as well to connect. Now Jojo going into the back line just to try and get something onto Laleko, and they managed to do it with Aegis getting themselves the kill, so a 1-for-1 on both mid laners.
Wait, did Prods pick up the kill there again?
Was it now? That's a good question.
I see that he's 3-0-3. He got another kill somewhere.
Somewhere. No, I think it was the Summers who got the kill this time. No, they didn't. You're right. Man, what?
I don't know, man. Prods picking up these kills right now. Like, okay, you know what? We get a replay, so we'll get to see who actually gets the last hit here. And no, it's Smalley. Okay, Smalley did pick that one up, so Prods picked it up.
Okay, good.
But yeah, and that's the case. This is good from K-Stars, and this is why I was a little bit worried about Red sticking around. You don't have that much health. You don't really have tanks to soak the engage here. And sure, you answer back 1-for-1. But if it's Smalley picking up the kill, there's nobody on Red side who I feel like would be worth trading 1-for-1 in that sort of situation. And after all said and done right now, so in the last couple of minutes, it does feel like Kate Stars to start to come online in this mid game. And they're actually starting to fight back and take control.
Yeah, they, for example, you have Smiley there sitting on the Kraken Slayer plus a Seal as well, so half of her next item already unlocked, and VKS getting priority, even pulling out the Herald here just to get some of that access from Aegis much more difficult, and they're going to get this one uncontested. Considering they have 4 of those Void Grubs, it's at least going to be something, but a great trade, not a trade exactly, but a great rotation from FNB here on the bottom side, getting that wave pushed in, forcing Gigo to go there and respond. But now on the top, there's Aegis going in, Grefta, and there's not going to be enough. The reflexes are still there. Okay, there's a shock wave getting some damage onto Aegis, and the double TP, as you said, going first for Gigo instead. Aegis goes deep into the ground, but it's not going to buy them enough time, at least for the rest of Red to escape. A 1-0 for VKS.
Yeah, and Kate Stars, they're just moving faster, collapsing faster. This is the Kate Stars that we want to see, right? This is the Kate Stars where they've got a clear game plan and they're executing well to it. Rusty's fine. He's okay. There's no easy engage on the side of Kate Stars right now just yet. But even if Brunsey's okay right now, Red as a whole are starting to get a little bit worrisome. One thing we kind of didn't touch on, we barely mentioned, was the fact that Red don't really have a good way to deal with Smalley. The only person who's diving in right now is Aegis. FNB is a frontliner. He's not going to be able to reach the back. And Grefthar, Ari's not the best at actually accessing backline targets. She's very mobile, but very few of her skills are actually able to reach that backline. It's really only her Q. If you Spirit Rush into the backline, you get very isolated. So given that Smalley hasn't been punished at all up to this point, I think we're starting to hit the stage where Kate just need to group up and play front to back, and then Red just struggle to deal with that and don't have answers to match the range of this Jinx.
And while VKS is not going front to back, as you said, from those team fights, FNB is just making a mess out of those tier 1s, taking control over the side lanes really, really well. And that's what they can do. So there's quite a lot of vision coming out from Red on this top side of the map.
Yep.
Whenever we... Okay, nothing really to be seen so far because Herald was already taken.
Yep.
We are still far away from Baron,
Brunson.
but we're not far away from engaging here. It's going to be a Featherstone plus a Flash that you mentioned was a little too spaced in the previous fight.
Yep.
They didn't waste any seconds on this one.
True, Brunson has learned his lesson, but he has lost his cooldown to the
man.
next fight. Leleko, no.
There's no way they're gonna get engaged immediately with a
He's
shockwave and a
alive!
redemption to help it out. Prodelta is huge on that clutch save, and Deleko escapes. Look at that rotation, huge. And as well with the Herald in the mid lane going pay is gonna guarantee the mid lane tier 1 taken down by VKS and a lot of ground space to go for this Drake.
And Red is completely out of position. After that series of plays, they went for Liko. That worked good for them, but it didn't. Liko survives. Didn't even have to burn that much.
Somehow.
And now Red is just trying to counterpunch a little bit. They're going for this top lane turret. They're fully committed to it. Kate Stars will pick up their first Drake of the game. And even on this top side turret, I'm not confident they take it. Pro Delta and Liko should have enough wave clear. The minions have been cleared. And even on this next wave, there's no real dive threat from Red on these two.
Yeah, what a read from VKS. Of course, just being... Oh, canceling. Oh, okay. It goes wide. And now trying to get something onto Leleko. There's a flash forward with a
is
barrel.
it enough?
And next followed up as well. Oh my god! Prodelta flashes in to try and help with a shield. And their ultimate, the Monsoons, are not going to be refreshing them enough. And fortunately, Leleko goes down. After such a clutch one in the river, they get taken out.
That's not unfortunate. I mean, if Leleko just stayed under turret, that dive is actually really difficult because of the shields, the heals, the Monsoon for the reset. Instead, you step out, got killed. Gigo able to answer down back bot lane, but it is an answer. And now, this inner turret, okay, I was going to say, might actually go down. Thankfully, Smawi is very fed, is very dangerous, is able to come up and dissuade Red from actually getting any significant gold because no plates on inner turrets. If you don't get the turret, there's no gold influx.
For sure. And in the mid lane here, they haven't really gotten this one to 50%. So... control over VKS's jungle is not quite there. You had some of that vision coming out because of this rotation they had on the tier 2. But look at them back for VKS, pushed now on this top lane as well. Very far ahead. They have the summons on a good shadow. And Smiley plus Prodelta getting that wave pushed in. Leleko is on the bottom side and having a TP on both Leleko and FNB. They could do something about it if somebody is really interested in a fight. But at this moment, I agree with you. They just need to get the gold influx. But this is going to be FNB getting caught out just as I speak. A flash away, trying to get something. A knockup doesn't connect from Leleko, and they connect on the shockwave instead. The summons in the backline to even get more, and Prodelta to just get that little shielding for assist and just stray by.
Oh my, the baiting onto FNB there, just kind of cutting everything off. Sure, it takes forever and a day to actually kill this Scion, but there was no chance for FNB to get away. The flash was to try and set up the unstoppable onslaught and just run away, but Gigo is doing such a good job of just putting his body such that there's no way for you to actually get past him. You're always going to get the knock up and not actually get the run. And Cade Stars, that's a free kill. They get to take. Baron's coming up in 4 seconds. Normally I'd be like, okay, you get a kill, you can make a play for that, but I don't think they're quite ready for it. So it's just straight gold and push.
Yeah, and speaking of push, Bronzy is doing exactly that here on the top side, especially considering that Baron is enabled, as you mentioned, and with a good rotation also from Gigo to translate that push from the bot side to the top lane and guarantee that they're not going to concede that tier 2 that Red is very eagerly trying to take down.
Yep.
I'm also looking at the fact that VKS, with that amount of gold that we're looking at so far, getting themselves into 3,000 ahead, is finally becoming a problem for Red. So those items enables you having the Infinity Edge plus another seal for Smiley too on top of that Kraken Slayer, and it's going to make a huge difference for the Jinx.
And it feels so different the way Red is playing from game 1. So far, we've not gotten to see too many proactive catches. Red has been rotating well. That's not the issue. But there's just been no threat onto the backline. And you compare that to last game when Grevthar was just fishing with charms on absolutely anyone and anything. And more often than not, actually not hitting the tanks, but hitting squishy carries, which is the priority targets you want to hit. And so far, I've not seen that. Aegis as well has been thoroughly suppressed. This is not the same sort of Rek'Sai we saw FNB pull off last game. For one, you're not tanky enough to go for those engages.
Yeah, and those engages start right now, and they're taking quite a lot of damage on the
Okay,
side of
grab that
red.
back
There's a
line.
TP in the back line just to help it out. Gigo going out with the home base sprint as well on the Uda. That feels
Okay.
really good. The redemption on 4 members is huge from Predelta. Going out to the back line, Aegis trying to get
Look at
Smiley
Smiley.
isolated, but they can't do it.
No.
Now Gigo is isolating 3 members of red while they are excited.
shockwave!
Smiley could get something. What? A feather storm. That's
One
going to
more
get them
auto.
out. Is it going to? There's the flash forward and the auto attack from the Leco just to get Bressy killed. And that's going to be a VKS Baron with no Aegis to be found.
Finally, signs of life from Red. Really good collapse in, but Kate Stars just pull the plug immediately and say, nope, no life support for you. They play that so, and that's the thing with Smiley. Kate Stars knows how to play with Smiley on a hyper carry, and you see the way they just fall back, corral, block everything. Where's the AoE from Red? You don't have any? Well, then you don't get to touch Smiley.
And they're going to be untouchable for the remainder of the game. Let's have a look at that replay once again.
Yeah, and at the start of this, you can see how Kate Stars have been pulled apart. The fact that Greftar actually finds the backline onto the Lekko was huge. But Pro Delta on this Janna managed to reset Greftar out, and that's all Kate Stars need to just congregate and group back up. And you can see Smalley too. The important part is, we said before, only Aegis can go for Smalley. Aegis went for Smalley, did nothing. You're not far ahead enough. You don't have the damage. This is not an Assassin Rek'Sai build. This is kind of the Bruiser-esque build. And the moment, you know, that kind of fails, the moment there's no more threat on Smalley, from here on out, it's all about the range advantage. That last auto, man. Smalley was actually going for the last hit. The rocket was launched.
Yeah, they will.
I don't know if I like that.
was
but
right
let's
there.
take it.
just not getting out of here. Right,
Yeah.
50% on this Drake. Could be a soul point for red as the Summers is taking a front line. Grefta also trying to find that moment to go in. FNB getting a knock-up, but they are stalling on the push. The Summers still trying to find and conquer back, while Aleko is also getting Grefta away from the fight.
Nice
It
steal.
could be a 50-50 on his might, and they get it. The Summers guarantees VKS that Drake. Now they're pushing out forward, and Aleko, it has taken most of Greftar's HP. They're going to have to go in with a great redemption as well from Predelta. They're going to get VKS on 100% HP, while Red is crumbling at the seams, following out forward. That's going to be Aegis down. Next will be both the support and mid laners. 3 for 0 for VKS.
The Kate Stars juggernaut just keeps rolling on, and with these mountain drakes as well. So let's note that Red picked up the first 2 drakes, which means if Kate Stars continues this, they get 4 mountain souls on Desamis, on Gigo, on these people who are already not taking too much damage in these fights. Now, I don't even think we're gonna get to 4 stacks, because Kate Stars are just rolling on in, and they've won, it feels like, every single fight in the last 10 minutes. Every team fight we've seen, it has been Kate Stars' favorite.
He has. And mid lane is going to get taken down by Gigo here with that Baron buff. Easily taken to tier 3 as well, especially with the Jinx. We know how Smiley feels great on the hyperscalers, and they're performing immensely well. 5-0 and 5 with Predelta on the Enchanters as well. 3-0 and 10. Absolute participation, 100% on the 13 kills of the map. That is just a whole different perspective on VKS.
And we're getting the replay here. I actually don't like the fact that Red decide to play so patient. I don't think you look for the fight here. I think you just burn the mountain and just go for the 50 if you want to, because you can see as this extended face-off goes, it's Red who are eating damage. FNB starts this fight at 60% health pretty much, and we've touched on the fact about Aegis before. If Aegis is in there kind of distracted by the dragon, you're not threatening Smalley. And so to me, it's that you just need to make a call. Go one way or the other. You split, you get wiped, and from here on out, you're already massively behind. I think we're like 6k gold advantage from, or sorry, pardon me, it's like 8.5k gold advantage now for Kate Stars. This is like in a completely untenable position for Red. I just don't see how they're coming back with this. I don't trust that anybody can actually find their way onto Smalley, and, you know, we saw Aegis just have to run. We saw Greftar try and find the back line. If neither of those are working, then there's just no shot.
And I think there's one thing different here from what we saw in the Jinx plus Rao combo in different lanes from the previous game and into this one. The Summers is just much more protective of Smiley. And I think that's working immensely well with how Smiley plays as a hyper carry. Now, Gigo trying to get something of that vision into the enemy jungle. Push now forward. The Summers just taking out some of those Rek'Sai burrows. Gigo gonna take some of that damage here. Top side, Leleko is pushing out the tier 2. Speaking of, that's one taken at the mid lane, and Gigo with a redemption gets absolutely saved, and that's a Monsoon that also gets popped there by Prodelta. They're pushing him forward, and as you say, RMC, they are not dying, but they are definitely killing loud. 2-0, and that's gonna be another tier 3.
Yeah, and there's just nothing you can do. The fact that Gigo doesn't die there, Sochan, is criminal.
Insane.
Yeah, like he's just about full tank right now. Yeah, and FNB is still getting cut down, and that's the problem, right? Like FNB should be ahead, but he still can't do anything. And in the battle of tanks right now, it's not really a battle of tanks, it's a battle of damage, and the damage from K-Stars is just higher.
So much higher. As we're getting already that tower completely destroyed, opening up the Nexus and the TP from Gigo as well to top it all up. Now they could continue this. It's the last fight for sure. The amount of shields you have, that's insane. Now Smiley have a great position to just take down this Nexus turret. Following it up, Jojo trying to get something done with a knockup, but the follow damage is not there. It just goes in. There's a chop and a kill onto Smiley. Huge. Grefstar takes that one, a shutdown. Could even continue chasing, and now VKS have to run for their lives. But Aegis, Jojo, Grefstar, they're not looking for it. Gigo might get themselves, but it's a bait instead. Jojo has to go over the wall. Grefstar is dead. Bronzy and FNB trying to get into the crime scene, but they're just a little bit late, Detective. There's a redemption to just get VKS even better on the HP. Gigo gets a dodge. No, they don't, but there's no problem whatsoever. That's 2 inhibitors down, and they could take the game still. They're still going for it, RMC. Jojo is gonna go very low. Gigo takes them down. Bronzy gonna get run down as well, and FNB is the last one standing. The game is over, and VKS takes us into a tie, 1-1 in a best of 5.
Well, you know what? I didn't know what K-Stars could do to come back in after game 1, when they sure showed us the mental is strong with this one. What was I thinking? K-Stars have only gone full 5 games so far in this playoffs, and huge props from them. They just look really solid when they've got these hyper carries for Smalley.
Yes, and well, if you want to add anything else, I really need a moment to breathe.
Sure. You know what? Let's talk about Pro Delta a little bit, because I think 100% KP, right? I don't know if he got it at the last fight, but I think he did. Pro Delta is amazing as a support on the Enchanter. I was a little bit worried when he was picking up those early kills, but he really did create so much space. And a lot of times when we see Gigo Jasam is not falling down, that's the shielding from Janna, some it's the resets, the healing from Janna. It buys them space to rotate out there multiple times.
And it's been just so good from Prodelta on the Janna, because they got Redemption as their first item, and Redemption was being used as the very first moment that it was enabled. It was saving and saving and saving and saving. So one thing I know, which is of course Jinx and Lulu work out really well. Lulu is great for Prodelta. We have that highlight of Prodelta taking, who was it? Was it Lee Sin? I don't exactly. It was the Summons.
It's his own jungler, yeah.
There you go. They were taking out this own jungler with the Lulu on their 1v1 against the Lee Sin. And you're like, yeah, they know how to play Enchanters. Prodelta really makes a difference. And I think that really came out online for this game. But most importantly, their mental was absolutely genius from the very start, going out for the swaps, and how they handled every reaction from Red was absolutely off the charts.
And I think for Red as well, they changed up their draft, and I kind of don't like it. They gave the Jinx away for free to Smalley, and it didn't feel like they had a good answer. Like the fact that you slammed Xayah, of all things, like I understand the Livers duo and their passive is really good in lane, but the range differential, right? Bruncy just wasn't able to pump out almost any damage that game. Towards the end, that last fight, they kind of won it because Bruncy was able to cut down the members. He was left untouched, and Smalley was threatened out. But other than that, for the rest of it, Bruncy really, really struggled on this pick. So for Red, going into game 3, whether they want blue side or not, that's up to them. But if they do go for Red, and I do think there is a benefit to having that Red and the potential counter picks on that side, you need to have an answer for Smalley Jinx, whether that be taking it away yourself and or straight banning it. Yeah, you've got to find some sort of response.
Yeah, and I'm extremely excited to see what's going to be the response coming out from Red because BKS looked like a completely different team from the first game of the series, and I love to see it. Now, Red have to bring the response up to the same level, so stay tuned. There's still CBLOL action to be taken here, and we're going to be right back after a quick break. Alrighty, are you guys ready for the third game of our best of 5 VKS versus Red Canids? This one was a banger, Armsy.
It was, and I'm very glad that K-Stars have kind of answered back and found a way to bring themselves into this series, because we do have ourselves an actual series and not a one-sided beatdown like we've seen too much here in the playoffs.
It's true. It's true. But well, we also see VKS being part of those 5-game skirmishes, so it does track with what the team has been doing so far. In this one, of course, a bigger threat on Red Canids, I would say, and how they have been performing, how imperative they are in the early game. We're talking about Brancy, Jojo, one of the best bot lanes at the moment for CBLOL. You're also talking about FNB, such a powerhouse in the top lane. And in the side of VKS, there were a couple of uncertainties. How is Leleco going to perform? The Surmis being on the team. Gigo, that was, of course, previously Red as well, and now being also a powerhouse of a top laner as a staple for VKS so far in MVPs. And Smiley in this last game was immaculate on the Jinx. Finished perfect KDA.
Yeah, and then the thing with Smiley too has always, it's not been about his late game or his team fighting. It's always been about the lane phase and whether or not he can survive that. And so it's been bugging me throughout this entire break. I've just been thinking about the lane swap that came through, because even now, like, I'm thinking about it, generally with the lane swap, it's this team that has Scion that wants the lane swap, and that was actually Red, not K-Stars who had it. Red also dropped the early ward, which made me think they were watching for the lane swap. But I'm actually wondering how much of that was K-Stars getting baited into thinking it was a lane swap. And it feels like either way, regardless whether or not, regardless who initiated the lane swap, I feel like K-Stars might have found a solution to Smiley's laning problems, which was, hey, give him that hyper carry and put him in a lane away from Bruncy and Jojo, and then let him scale up. And that's like, once you get him past that little bit of a hump, we've seen his positioning be so incredibly clean when it gets later on.
I'm so on board with you, and I think there's also something about the fact that because of how Red reacted to the lane swap to begin with, we had Smiley and Predator just alone in the top side, because FNB chose to be in the bot side with both bot laners, and that meant that, well, you wanted it easy fighting against one player that is melee. How about no players?
Yeah, that's why it's such a puzzling sort of situation with that lane swap and who it really benefited. Because I do feel like Gigo actually felt less comfortable than FNB. Like, FNB messed up the early TP and died under turret, feeding first blood over. But Gigo died under turret unnecessarily as well. And I do think that Bruncy and Jojo did walk away. Bruncy certainly walked away with more gold from that sort of early swaps that came through there. So while I feel like Red is more comfortable with the lane swap and had a good response to it, it's not about the early game, right? It rarely is with K-Stars. Yes, the set pieces can be good from them, but what wins them the games tends to be the team fighting and macro plays later on.
Yeah, and it works out really, really well, especially when you have Smiley on that hyper carry that we'd love to see. The sides have swapped right now, so Red chose the blue side, trying to get at that advantage potentially of the Lucian, already denied by VKS.
Yeah, they had to. And it's funny because now K-Stars have to ban the Jinx as well, because they're on the red side. It's such a tough situation for K-Stars. On the other hand, Red, they get to ban away the Orianna, so no more Ori for Leleco. That's going to be mixed blessings. I think Leleco has better carry champions, which now he's unlocked to play. And the first pick Rek'Sai comes through. Now we know for sure it is a flex pick between FNB and Aegis.
Yes, and that means quite a lot of different strategies that VKS can go through when they start picking out their champions. I think FNB did amazing on the Rek'Sai when we had Aegis going out for it. It was not that they were not doing well. They were in good positions, in good moments, but how VKS was responding, or maybe sometimes just preemptively making the plays themselves, made for Aegis to end up dying at the end, not really converting those skills, and VKS found themselves in a very, very good spot. Now VKS going for a potential flex here as well, that we mentioned. Oh, Rel's not going that much into the jungle.
Ooh, it's
now
not flexed. A hard lock.
Exactly. Had lock it on the jungle. Okay.
That's really surprising to me. So I mean, I agree with you. I think Rel on this patch, again, 14.6, not live patch, Rel can still be flexed into jungle, and I thought like having the flex would be very, very strong for them. Instead, now you know what's coming through. No, why are we doing this? I was gonna say, you saw the Rakan, it could be Xayah Rakan. We are stabbing a Kai'Sa, and Kai'Sa gets countered by Xayah's Featherstorm.
Oh, yeah, you're so right. Interesting play here. Maybe they were
Okay.
just really tunnel focused on the fact. I think they were just tunnel focused on the fact that Smiley loves the Kaiser.
Sure.
It's yeah, but still, you're going to give the Zaya Rakan, especially to Smiley, that just loves having those hyper carries. And in this particular matchup, as you said, the Feather Storm, maybe they're relying heavily on JoJo and having that much of the presence in the early game to guarantee that Smiley's gonna be behind. We'll see.
Yeah, and that's kind of risky because while Kaisa has her power spikes, her early game's not really actually the strongest either. And normally Zaya's kind of weak, but Zaya Rakan together with their passives, I think can actually win out this lane. I'm very curious to see how Red kind of patches up, because the other thing that Red I think struggled with last game was the lack of a secondary sort of real team fight threat. Like Greftar did well on the Ari Grey mode, was amazing. Game 2 was okay, I'd say above average, but not amazing, right? And the moment Brentzy wasn't able to output the damage, they just couldn't carry team fight. So coming to this game, I need to see either Aegis or Greftar, or potentially FNB, because we don't know where the Rek'Sai is going, be somebody else who can threaten in these engages.
I would actually love to see, for example, FNB maintained on the Rek'Sai and having a Vi. No, the Vi is always banned, man. So Vi not going to be an option. I think there were a couple of other bans on the jungle that we mentioned that fit similar roles, like the Jarvan that was banned previously, not in this game. I think there was also a Lee Sin that was played by Aegis very, very well, so it also on the table. But now in the second round of bans, you have the Aurelion Soul denied, plus Nico and Hui. So all of that mid lane out and really narrowing down what's going to be the options for both Leleco and Grefta, finishing it up with a Talia.
In fact, if you want to keep pinching Greftar, we pick a Talia here for Gate Stars. Oh no, sorry, Talia just got back to her, at the end there. Yeah, then in which case, like, I think Leleco is free to pick whatever he wants. If he wants more team fighting for the side of Gate Stars at this point, you can go with something like Azir. But they also still need to pick up their top laner as well. And I'm curious to see who they decide to sack. They're giving Gigo up, and Renekton is not a great pick into Rek'Sai necessarily. It's kind of a handshake, and if anything, you get nullified by the Rek'Sai.
But now they decide to say here the next one would be Greftar on the exact same champion that we saw them playing in the previous 2 games, and the Lee Sin bringing it back from the first one. And wait, what was that? Oh, that's a Veigar. Okay, for Leleco. We saw them play this in playoffs, didn't we?
We did, and I think it was into an Ahri as well. I'm trying to confirm what the exact matchup was, but it was Leleco playing it. And to me, I think of it as a counter to Aurelion.
It was on the Ahri, yeah.
It was an Ahri? It was against Los Grandes. Okay, yeah. So I really like the Veigar pick. It's basically a ticking time bomb. It just scales to infinity and beyond. Now, the thing with Ahri, though, and why I personally don't really consider it a counter to Ahri, is that Ahri is hypermobile and she can dodge out the Event Horizon fairly easily. She can also dodge your Q and your W. Everything is a skill shot with Veigar, except your ultimate. But your ultimate needs setup. You need to chunk them first, and then it's an execute. So Leleco throwing hands with Greftar. I'm going to be honest, I don't hate it. I think Greftar can be punishable in the laning phase when he roams out, and Veigar is going to pressure Greftar to stay in lane and keep trading rather than roam out and give free farm.
Oh yeah, because why would you even give space for the Veigar to feel comfortable to farm and get those stacks? So you really have to be locked in there. I love this response. I agree with you. And RMC, I want to see what's going to be the case there with Renekton and Rek'Sai, because as you said, it's going to be more of a stalemate, but Rek'Sai getting a little bit of an upper hand. How are they going to utilize this? Because so far, Red has been relying a bit on FNB, and I think that in the first game, VKS had the same deal with Gigo. For the second one, they felt much more detached in the early game from Gigo and just thinking, okay, we focused our strategies on getting Smiley into a good setup and even mid lane as well. So I think when we come into this one, is going to be an even different strategy from both the 2 games that we already saw.
Potentially, yeah. I'm honest. I'm going to be honest about that top side. I don't think they're going to interact too much with the map, given how they generally go. I don't think either team is relying on their top laners this particular draft. I think a lot of the action is more focused on the bot lane, or bot side, pardon me. Jungle mid is actually going to be huge to me, and specifically for Red. I think Red's composition with the Lee Sin, Ahri, Kai'Sa, all of these aren't the best scaling champions. Like, Kai'Sa does scale pretty well, but into Azaya specifically, I think it's kind of tough. So I'm looking for Red to play aggressively, and if everything just gets nullified out, then the scaling from the side of K-Stars is going to come in. We've seen their team fighting late game as well. They're really good at knowing when to play forward and when to play backward. And with the Saya, if they are on the back foot, they play backwards. With the Veigar, they just look for picks constantly. So Cade Stars, I think, are a very comfortable position. Red, less so, but at the same time, this feels much more their style. They are a very aggressive team.
And it matches with what they want to do. So getting into our third game of the best of 5. Nobody going for any sneaky 5 stacks or swaps or even vertical jungling. Just going for the usual. Both junglers mirroring each other here on the bottom side of the map. A deep ward from Leleco that has been spotted is going to help out VKS. You have some trekking there onto Aegis.
Leleco putting out a better ward placement. I remember in game 1, Aegis actually started his Raptors without getting spotted by the wards, and that might have messed him up. But this time it does catch a little bit of the Raptors, so they know where Aegis is starting. I'm actually curious if we get a little bit of cheese coming through, especially with the Lee Sin. I think you can kind of go for early ganks, not necessarily kills, but just to get you early lane pressure by taking away people's health, especially in the mid lane.
I am looking at these two and the color scheme on the skins, and I'm gonna feel very confused on team fights.
True.
That's all I'm saying. Oh my god. That's a level 2 for both the top laners. I know, right? And this bot side, you have, of course, the Nautilus having that pressure that you always have to fear. A quick power spike here on level 2 for Brunsey. They knew that was going to be the case, so VKS positioning much more safe in the lane. And both junglers should be rotating to the other side of the map and coming back here. And another point, there's the level 2. Wow, excuse me. Okay, a very nice dodge from VKS on the Jojo dredge line.
Yeah, and I love the fact that they stepped forward, Pro Delta, to actually dodge that out. Desamis now being the one to actually cheese this bot lane. Red have no clue.
Yeah, they have no clue. Going out for half the jungle and straight into the bot lane. Jojo goes in with a hook, deals damage onto Pro Delta, but now getting it back, forcing out a flash. There's a heal as well, and the knockup doesn't connect, but forces out a dodge, and that's going to be first blood for Smiley. VKS taking this one home.
If you're a Warriors fan, you love to see it. Jojo still had flash, and I appreciate that Jojo didn't try and burn it. Once the CC chain kind of came through, you were dead to rights. Flash wouldn't save you, so they still have that if they still want to make the aggressive lane plays. And so if you can. So one thing we often don't talk about with these ganks is experience leech. And because part of the wave did get cleared there, Small and Prodata are actually behind in XP from Brunsey right now. And Brunsey being solo will pick that up. So Red still have opportunities to try and punch back with this advantage. It won't be as good as First Blood, but a kill is a kill.
Oh, for sure. Especially when you have this mid lane pushed out very nicely by Greftar and also Aegis preemptively on the red buff. The Sam is recognizing, okay, this is maybe dangerous. Going for the Raptors instead. There's a cage. Greftar has to flash away. So, wow, all right. Red started out with the invade, but VKS fought it back.
Yeah, and for Red, this is what they need to do, right? We touched on the Lee Sin, the Ahri. You've got to play aggressively with these picks. But for Cade Stars, they lose the red. That's going to suck a little bit for Desamis, but you can see how much easier it is to play defense.
Yeah, and that Jojo just being a nuisance that the Nautilus can be. Even getting that wave pushed in much easier. Is Greftar going to be able to deny the recall? No, very close. The cooldown there on the cube was just almost there to get Leleco still to remain in lane. Now here at the spot side, we still have 25 seconds for the first Drake to spawn. But VKS having good control over this bottom river, but plenty of vision on red too.
Yeah, and you can see Desamis already roaming down at this point. Aegis will be a bit slower to get there, but it looks like they are actually actively looking for it. We have to look at mid laners as well, because both of them did just get their first purchases. Leleco is not coming back with much combat stats. It's really the Amp Tome. Tier doesn't help you that much early. Greftar opted for the Ionian Boots of Lucidity, so more cooldown, more ability haste to make this happen. I do think Red could look to contest this and shouldn't be giving this up for free.
Yeah, you're totally right. You have that extra movement speed as well to allow for Greftar to be in a good position. Now, there's no vision for Aegis on this one. Desamis goes in. There's a flash forward. A cage that does connect. There's going to be a kill. No, Leleco doesn't have an ulti. Still going to be a kill, but not for the mid laner. Now, Jojo comes in. There's the FNB going out for a flank. And Brodelta's going so dangerously low on health, having to go away with that ignite ticking. And Rek'Sai into the backline. FNB is almost there, but they have to flash away from the cage as well. They were just within tower range. Now Bronzy is hunting down that escapes with a thumbs up feeling confident, or are
Oh,
they?
Aegis
Aegis
here.
over the wall. That's going to be an execute. Oh, they don't dodge it. What a snipe from Bronzy.
Oh, I was sweating for Red right now. I thought Pro Delta actually got away, and that would have been criminal because Red sacrificed so much to make that happen. FNB roaming down from top lane gave free play to Gigo and Greftar right here. We were talking about, hey, you know, they should be able to make this play happen for Red with Greftar's advantage. No, the CC chain layering that came out, him kind of getting caught on that ward and trying to clear it, not being with his team, ended up really hurting them. And this to me was absolutely insane. Desamis catching 2 with the stun was what allowed them to disengage without losing any bodies on that play. This should have gone so much more worse for Cade Stars than just that 1 kill.
Gosh, I was looking at that W coming from Bronzy and I was like, is it gonna hit? Oh my god, are they behind the minion? Oh, nice snipe. And of course, it's what you need to have when that was so close to being illegal into letting Pro Delta escape. And Red have to take all the opportunities they have in this very first minute, because VK has already found a good spot, but now Red decided to get that pressure on the top side, dealing damage here. FNB onto Gigo, but that's the Samus going out to the back line. Can they connect this here? There's going to be a burrow out, and gosh, these burrows are very pretty on this skin, I have to say.
Sure. And unfortunately for K-Stars, they'll be wanting to clear that because you're seeing how mobile FNB is with all those pretty little tunnels that he's digging away there. Aegis was there to back him up as well. This top side for Gigo, basically for Gigo, if you win, if you survive, you've won this lane, right? Look at what Gigo bought. He buys the Executioner's Calling to try and slow down the healing from FNB, and he bought a call. He knows that this is not about the laning phase on this Renekton, as odd as it might seem. It's all about the skilling for the entirety of Cade Stars. Sure, with the Renekton scaling doesn't feel as good, but you just need to be a body later on. You just need to bring that stun to buy space, to buy setup for Desamis and Leko CC chain.
Oh yeah, because you have plenty of damage, okay? That's a deny here on the recall from FNB. Gigo is forced to remain in lane. And as I was saying, you have damage with Vega, we have damage with Smiley, and Zaya is just going to keep on scaling alongside Vega all throughout the late game. And they do late game really well, VKS. And with a rotation from both junglers going out to the bottom side now, we will see if Aegis can land a good... Okay, deciding to go for a recall instead. And just trying to freeze the wave, it seems, as it is slowly arriving to lane.
I think they are aware that Smalley and Pro Delta have backed, and if there is a time to go for Dragon, it's now. Because for all this time, okay, no, Aegis already recalled. All this time, they're not making plays happen. Cade Stars are looking for the reset, and Cade Stars will then have first move onto this Dragon, which, by the way, this is still the first Drake. They fought over it earlier, but they didn't actually take it because of how close the margins were. And now, Bruncy, you're behind in items. They're now looking to recall, and Cade Stars have full control over this bot side.
Yeah, very easily so. Now it's clearing out that wave. They can start going out for the summons on the Drake. And with the amount of vision they have as well, they are pretty much protected. Now, Leko has to be careful because they are on the wrong side of the fog of war. Oh, there's going to be an instant hook with the killer instinct on Bronzy. The kill goes to Aegis, and they can quickly translate this into a fight for Drake. There is vision from both sides. And please, Mr. Observer, come back, please. Take me back to bot lane, please.
Yeah, it's FNB and Gigo. They're 2 tanks. Nothing's going to happen. Bot side, they have to be careful as Greftar is starting to arrive as well. There's potential for a collapse here onto Cade Stars.
Yeah, looking like so. Pro Delta gets picked, and there's going to be a charm as well. The W doesn't connect, and they're going to go farther away. That is insane. That is going to be a shield plus the knockup, getting them out. Again, how slippery Pro Delta is.
That's a tilt and a half, but this play is not necessarily over yet because Pro Delta is so low. It's an easy dive if you just want to pick up Pro Delta and disengage, and if Pro Delta backs, you can dive Smalley instead. Gigo just rushing FNB down.
Yeah, they can do damage, but as soon as they go down on the ground, then they can get the sustain back. Very close on both ends in regards to CS, but Aegis going out to the ward. There's a nice dodge onto the shockwave, the sonic wave, and Leleko is still safe to get that plating.
And it starts off with Red kind of getting their revenge. This is a very similar play to what Cade Stars did to Greftar earlier, and you can see that Cade Stars weren't expecting the turnaround, which is ironic when you just did the exact same thing. They were busy trying to ward against the collapse onto the dragon instead, and going towards second Drake. So I sincerely doubt we're gonna get to see such an easy pick on a mid lane rotation.
Oh yeah, never again. Not a mistake that's going to repeat itself. Now there's this lane swap going out here for Brunty and Jojo going to the top lane, and Gigo is still here. Probably going to get there. Okay, looking to get something, just scaring him out, trying to gauge what's going to be the next step. As the summons is close, but so is Aegis. They know that the next course of action would be going out for these Void Grubs. Taken already 3 by Red. A good rotation from Prodelta and Leleko to follow it up. Would get cut off by Grefta on the Ari coming from the mid lane. Both of them have the availability of dashing over the wall to be safe. On the other side of the map, FNB collecting some platings.
Worth noting, FNB doesn't actually have the teleport available. It's still on cooldown right now. So if Kate Stars want to try and force a numbers advantage topside, that could work.
Oh,
Leleko!
not again!
Okay, to be fair, Leleko didn't get caught in chance at this time. That was an actual gank into mid lane from Red.
So true. Now that rotation translates into at least one plating here for VKS on the top lane, but they don't have vision onto Jojo. Neither Aegis, and they could try to get something set up. There's still vision from both teams in regards to Void Grubs and whatever they're going to decide to do next. Maybe baiting for going on to a dive on Bronzy, but that's not going to be the case. No, FNB and Giga here on the bot side just slapping each other as the usual happens. Now rotating again of Red,
TP,
trying to get some of that
that's FNB.
pressure. TP, as you said, it's available. Now they could go over the wall to try and engage on this one. They're all on the right side of this. The Summers gets picked out. There's a TP that also comes out, and Bronzy goes in with a killer instinct, very close to getting something. Aegis takes down Leleko. That is huge. Another one is going to get taken down, and Bronzy takes the AD carry. Smiley not going to be available for the fight, and the Summers, Prodelta, Giga just have to escape this one. Giga could get taken, but forces out a flash. Red with a 2-for-0, and most likely taking all 6 of Void Grubs.
Yeah, and FNB at the critical time was able to find the space to actually TP before Gigo, and that makes all the difference. The damage numbers, though, Smiley actually pumped out a surprising amount of damage. Problem was, Leleko was dead to rights right from the get-go, so it's 1 carry versus, well, let's call it 3, because Aegis and Greftar are in their power spike right now.
That's very true, MC. All right, speaking of TPs, there's one going out here for Greftar, clearing out this bot lane. And the 6 Void Grubs we mentioned are confirmed for Red as we have a look at this replay.
Yeah, and again, we highlight FNB and the way he was kind of able to get backline. Bruncy's killer instinct as well was worth noting because he jumped right to the back, and that kind of messed up the formation for Kate Stars. They were trying to cut off the front line, but suddenly all the carries are in the back, and they just had to swap around. It just took a little bit too long. Desamis wasn't in position to peel. Prodelta wasn't quite in position to peel. The CC chain from Red was just too good. And the moment Leleko just got burst out right away without even getting to use his ultimate, that's a huge damage source from K-Stars removed.
And so far we're looking at the side of Red having such a big presence that we saw coming from Desamis in the previous game, but now coming from Aegis instead. 2-0-1 on the Lee Sin and at least 13. Do I do mathematics right? No, 21 now.
I'm not even going to try. Yeah, I was looking at that thinking like, yeah, I'm not going to cast about this.
And then plating's also to the advantage of Red because of all the rotations they've been doing. And whenever there is Herald on the block, and there it is, we're going to see so many Void Mites. They're not going to get contested by VKS. So split push and Siege is going to go completely bomb on the side of Red.
Yeah, and it's sort of the teams are playing to their win cons, right? Red needs to accelerate the game, and so they're trying to go for this immediate gold and turret pressure. Whereas Kate Stars, they're a skill and composition, so they like stacking those drakes. That will come in much more handy for them. Gigo might actually go down here. Bruncy's
they
bursting.
might. They really might.
Wow.
Tanky healing out back, but not enough. And when you're against 3 members, and look at the amount of Void Mites of this one. There's going to be another charge of the arrow going out to this top lane.
There's the swarm.
Trying to clear out the lane. Whoopee! But it's not going to be enough. There's a nice cage with a knockup coming out from Prodelta, but they decide to be careful about it. They don't even know that FNB and Grifter are there. But at least good on them to notice that there was danger in the area, using out a swipper here to guarantee the Summons was going to spot them out before they get locked in by a charm, and they all escape.
Yeah, I do think they actually see Grefta on rotation, but we get to see that. I thought Gigo would actually get away at this point with the Dominus popped, because at first it was just JoJo and FNB, and even with Brunsey with just the Krakens there, I thought it'd be enough. But the burst damage that's actually coming through from this Kaisa is pretty ridiculous already, despite sitting on only one items. And if you can do that to Gigo, well, I guess that's why Leko just melted in the last fight, right? Like, Gigo is probably the tankiest person on the map right now for the side of Kate Stars, even more than Desamis, because he's got 2 levels up. And if he can do that with Gigo, he can do that to anybody on Kate Stars.
I am okay. I don't know. It was very slight and very quick, but I was looking at Bronze's build. There was a Kraken Slayer and a big sword, but the
BF
big
sword?
sword is
Okay.
gone. Yes, and the BF sword is gone, and it's turned into 2 archbows. That is very interesting of a strategy because it was because of the BF sword that you guaranteed that much damage on the burst, right?
I guess so, yeah. And now going for the Terminus instead, you're going to take a bit of a power tip right now because when you sell the item, obviously the value, you don't get a full refund on the item. So for me, like Brunsey is ahead, but you've weakened your gold advantage a little bit. And it feels like Red are saying that we're not going to be fighting till Brunsey completes Terminus. To be fair, there's nothing to fight over. 3 minutes over all the objectives right now. So I don't hate it necessarily. I just need to make sure Red got the right timings for it.
Oh yeah, they are on the timing of 2,000 gold ahead. No, just shy of 1.4 actually for Red, as we are still 2 minutes 40 seconds for the next Drake to spawn. Both teams on 1 Drake each. So someone's trying to get some of that pressure back into their own jungle. There's a good positioning from Greftar and Jojo, Brunsey, and Aegis here on this front line. Giga was able to clear out the wave. Nothing really to come out of it, but they were really interested in the fight.
Yeah, that's surprising. But here I am saying, oh, Red don't want to fight. They want to wait for that Terminus completion. And immediately they start positioning for a potential dive. A good response from Kate Stars, though, to just shield Gigo. And again, if they can slow down the game, this is beneficial from them. They don't need to make plays happen. They just need to deny plays away from Red.
For sure. And the fact that they are not that far behind in gold, they have 1 Drake each. It's going to be much easier to deny and fight for those soul points and Elder Drakes if we do come to that. Now, Smiley getting that pressure here in the mid lane, but also very wary of the rest of Red as they are here. There's Jojo, could try to get somebody. Delta just easily blocking out that Sonic wave and saying, do you really want to come here?
Aegis, thankfully, not suffering from Lee syndrome today. It doesn't just say, yes, I'll go into this. I mean, we've seen that happen plenty, but now's not the right time, right?
Oh, yeah.
In a minute's time, that's when I want to see Aegis just pull the trigger, go for the insect. Even if it's just Pro Delta, that's okay, because, well, I should say just Pro Delta when Pro Delta is such a big source of CC for this Kate Stars roster. But like I said, the teams are playing a little bit passive. They're just waiting for the next big objective before they kind of go for it, except for bot side, where FNB and Gigo are just slapping each other. There's no kill threat here. Don't get fooled.
No.
Look at FNB regenerating. Gigo's got his Q as well to call up and heal up.
It's just easy. It's
Yep,
just
there you
very,
go,
very
queued up.
easy. And Giga is just more exactly. Giga is just more interested in farming the lane anyway. So trying to deny some of that pressure in regards to taking down tier 1. Any extra gold that Red can get is going to be crucial for them because they are not increasing that amount of gold that they are ahead for a while. It's maintained steady because of VKS still getting that gold. But there's a big rotation with Jojo and FNB here on the bot side. If they want to try to do something, FNB just goes straight for the tower. That demolition is huge. And the next wave, or maybe in 2, they could be able to take it down.
But they don't take it out now. So and the Promised Dragon is about to spawn. They were trying to get that sort of pressure. The turrets will bounce waves back. So that's why it's so important to try and keep your turret on that side of the map up and available. I want to highlight too, Brunsey did not complete Terminus. He, I guess, repurchased that BF sword. And that's really inefficient in terms of gold. So I'm not sure what happened there, if it was a spec bug or something. But at least in terms of burst potential, it's better than what Smiley has, but it's still not the point, I think, where Red was hoping for as this dragon spawns.
Oh yeah, especially because the BF sword just screams like, I want to get my upgraded Q.
Oh.
And I don't know if it was a spectator bug. If it wasn't, then I'm a little worried for the gold management. But now, going in deep, Giga has popped their ultimate already. And with VKS having that pressure and vision in regards to Drake, many of those burrows that could be taken, FNB decides to take that tier 1. There's a TP going onto the backline as well to just get some of the area scouted. Aleko is going to really isolate F&B out, but Red has found at least some place in the top river to come
Graftar's
here
coming.
and gather around in the Drake. That's Graftar, as you said, RMC, and now the Summers can and could try to go for a 50-50 with Aegis around as well. They decide to stop the damage on the Drake altogether as they are with a little bit of a distraction with both top laners there, but they're going in. That's
Graftar's
damage
out.
from the Summers. Graftar has to go over the wall, but it's going to be Aegis who guarantees this one for Red. Now they're pushing it, and Aegis goes down. Next one could be F&B, and they are very much close to getting killed. It's a 2-0 for VKS, but Red guaranteed the buff.
Really good patient play from Cade Stars as well. Considering that Gigo ended up burning his ult before that, they actually held everything. Primordial Burst and Featherstorm are still both available for Cade Stars, so they are looking at Baron. This feels overambitious.
It definitely does. There's 10 seconds, less than that for Aegis. Jojo
Burning
could
fast,
go
though.
in. Graftar is still, yeah, they're melting it down. They have the Zaya. They have Leleko that can do some damage now. They have both of the gigantic staffs there, and with the Seraph's Embrace as well. That's enough. Wow, that really is enough. What a ambitious play from VKS that gets countered by a TP straight into a box, but it's not going to do that much damage onto F&B. But F&B can definitely do damage onto Leleko, especially
on
with the
its way.
Summers, and Ego could save them. Is it fast enough? Aegis is also on the back line. There's a redemption that comes in through for Red, healing out F&B, but they're going into the back line. Aegis gets an insect onto Gigo, but that's going to be the tankiest champion on the side of VKS, and they all escape.
And I really like this from Red as well. They are trying to stop Cade Stars from actually basing and being able to use that gold that they just kind of won with that Baron buff. It's not going to be enough with the Empowered Recalls, and they're stalling out the Baron. At this point, there's only 2 minutes left right now. Red has completely pushed up the top lane. Nobody on Cade Stars is pushing anywhere else right now. They've got to answer top because they've got to be careful about getting picked off. So as rough as that transition from Dragon to Baron was for Red, I think they've answered well. It's on Cade Stars right now to figure out, hey, how do we want to reset this? And you don't have that much time, only 2 minutes.
You really don't, and I would say Giga would have to go to the bot side or at least the mid lane to push out some of those waves. You have TP if necessary, and we are looking at Bronzy getting a reset, so not going to be participating in this fight, considering that VKS has maintained the position of 4 men here on the top side. FNP is going to have to concede this tower. There's at least going to be some gold back for VKS because they were very much down to less than 900 on the Baron buff power play, now up to almost 1300. If they keep on pushing, this would be enough, but I would say it's more a matter of trying to stall and get Gigo in a good position in the mid lane and take out that tier 1.
That was their first turret, so Cade Stars have not actually taken a turret prior to this. So there's a lot of standing gold for them to try and maximize right now, and it's paying off. Gigo able to find the outer. F&B
taking damage. There's the wall coming in. Ooh, the charm whiffs, so Graftar is not going to have that upper hand. Aegis is around as well, and Jojo is also there. Now actually rotating from the side of Red into Gigo. Relying on a dodge. Doesn't get it, but Aegis gonna take some damage as well. Graftar could try and follow it up. They have the Spirit Rush if necessary, popping it out. And that's gonna be an ulti coming from Aegis as well.
Redemption?
There's the redemption. Oh, so close. But they get taken down while on the top side. VKS forces the play onto F&B. And
still alive, though.
arrived too. They are alive, as you say,
I jinxed
RMC.
it.
And they're continuing to push this one. Jojo is very close to getting taken down. One more auto should be enough, but they don't have the range. Oh, Smiley. Yes, he does. And that's going to be a 1-for-1 in a very interesting manner.
Yeah, and pretty good from Cade Stars, the way that ended up panning out. Both these top laners are so tanky, though. You're seeing how long it's taking to take them out. And for a second, I honestly thought F&B was going to buy enough time that Red could actually come back in and collapse. It doesn't quite happen, but it does stall out the Baron push. So it's really only the 2 outers that they lose. And we get to see the F&B side of the story because we were watching Gigo. He just kind of overstepped. And with the CC that Cade Stars have, right, with the Rakan, with the Vygar, like we are talking about, even if you're attacked, you're just stuck there for days, and there is enough damage to eventually take you down.
Oh yeah, it's the recipe for disaster, right? They don't have that much damage, but they do have time when they keep you locked in place. Now going to the bot
Gigo?
side, huge effort on going to Gigo. They shut them down. There's a TP from Leleco coming in. They could land a nice box, but it's not going to land on anybody aside from Jojo. Still keeping that front line. Grafta gets a charm onto Smiley. Huge damage on the ADC, having to pop that feather storm, and into the backline goes Bronzy. Onto the killer instinct, takes one down, takes two, double kill, could turn into a triple, and that is amazing for the side of Red Kennett as they're pushing out. Could be a quadra, and it is quadra kill for Bronze's ADC. Red Kennett comes out with an ace.
Zaya's supposed to be the counter to Kai'Sa, but I'm not seeing it this game. Brunzy is positioning it so well, and again, he goes diving into the backline, finding critical targets. Again, K-Stars feels like they're caught a bit with their pants down when Brunzy goes in like that, and Brunzy, for all his aggression, hasn't died once.
That's insane. As you said, all of the killer instincts going into the backline RMC. So aggressive, as we know and love Bronzy to be, getting themselves on 6-0-4. Now the Navoris as well to top it all up. Let's have a look at that one again.
Yeah, so it feels like it starts with just Gigo getting caught out again. And this has happened a couple of times this game already. Granted, he's buying a lot of space and time, but that time he didn't have Dominus. And that's why he ends up melting a little bit faster. And without that front line, when FNB gets in there, there's just a lot of chaos. The other thing I want to highlight is Leleco still has not used Primordial Burst. Like, he's been struggling to find a good place to use that Veigar ultimate. And unfortunately, this time, right, like, you don't have enough damage to come through. Brunzy finds the perfect time to go through when all the cooldowns are down and there's nobody to threaten him. And the Featherstorm wasn't there. And from there, it's just cleanup.
It really is. Now that going out again here on the top side, but there's going to be the Sam is getting picked off this time instead of Gigo. FNB is in the back. It could get a nice flank onto Leleco, but then Smiley is also there. That's a big follow-up from Gigo, knocking it down on FNB. But now they have isolated the side of VKS. Grafstar over the wall. Still has to be careful on how advanced they go onto this one. Still having that Spirit Rush to continue forward or backwards, and that's what they do. Many resources used in this one.
Yeah, a lot of the team fight ultimates from K-Stars is down. Dominus is down, Magnet Storm is down, Featherstorm critically is not available for Smiley, and without the Featherstorm, Xayah isn't really that counter to Kai'Sa. The big thing is when Kai'Sa dives in, you hop out, you feather pull, and you just walk away at that point. Whereas on Red's side, what did they burn? They burnt the Spirit Rush, the Dragon's Rage, and the Depth Charge. So one big team fight ultimate down, and they're okay with that. Red's comp isn't about the 5v5. They would much prefer the skirmishes.
And they found themselves into a position of getting back into 1,000 gold ahead. VKS found a little bit of a breathing room when they got Baron, but they couldn't really utilize it. I think it was a maximum of 1,500 maybe, and Red still got back. So they're choosing to start this one here. RMC Baron has already been started by Red, with VKS trying to find a good angle to go in, but FNB really looking forward to finding them in the backline. Gigo is going to find the opposition instead, and maybe Red has to disengage and stop this one. They do, but there's a flash, there's a forward onto a charm, trying to get maybe Predelta or Smiley, couldn't really land it, and FNB is in a very, very bad spot, using that burrows to go away, but VKS just doesn't have enough damage when they are scattered away, and those carries are not lining out that damage.
And once again, Dominus burnt on cooldown from Gigo right now. Red is just so good at kind of baiting this out. Now, you did trade it for a Spirit Rush, so it's not a complete victory from Red, but Red are more than happy to just keep burning this and go right back to that Baron. Look at Aegis as well. Aegis is able to tank this up without taking too much damage, and that allows Red to keep extending this Baron dance, this Baron tease.
Oh yeah, and dancing they are, as they are going to reset once again just to the side of VKS appearing. Of course, you have to be careful. You don't want to be fighting without crucial abilities on cooldown, although many of those were still up, and was VKS using them preemptively and defensively. That took place. Giga is going to try and clear out this lane in the top lane, but they are getting potentially caught out. There's a killer instinct in Oh, one. Okay, it's not gonna go for Bronze. Still taking out FNB, and they don't have Baron, but they're gonna take that tier 2. Now that's a potential split in this one, with that TP coming in the backline from Grefta, landing on the Psalmist, that charm, trying to get some damage. Redemption is gonna help massively the side of VKS, and nothing really comes out of it aside from that tier 2 and Giga getting taken down.
I mean, that's still gold on the side of red, and
It
they're now
is.
looking at the Baron. They have the numbers advantage, but Laleko on this Veigar has been doing such a great job of disengaging red's attempts at trying to flank and force things to happen. The event horizon comes out, it just resets the fight, and they just back right off. So we're seeing red kind of decide, no, now Laleko's still up, Smalley's still up, the big threats are up, the Samus is still tanky enough to frontline. Trying to start Baron at this point would be too risky. Let's go for that soul instead. Dragons are a lot easier to take.
They really are. And I'm looking at Laleko, as you said, and they have finished the Crypt Bloom, which is going to be very helpful, especially with those clutch redemptions coming out from Pro Delta. So extra healing is definitely good. But there's something about positioning that has been hard for VKS. They disengage, they get defensive, but they don't really come out on top of those fights. End up losing Gigo, and that's not the optimum place for them to be. Speaking of optimum place, red is definitely on that one with the Scuttle Crab vision plus control over the pit. Aegis is also in a good position with F&B in the backline, just sneaky, have no idea that they are
got
there
Aegis!
trying to get something. Okay, that's a jungler down, which means calling out the Drake fight.
Yeah, and at this point, FMB says, okay, abort mission. We go for plan B, which is we just take this inner turret instead. Great catch out from Gates. I don't think he even had vision. That was just a hunch from Laleko that, hey, he might be hiding behind this particular block. And with this, so it feels so much like that first Baron. It's a dragon play into Baron immediately. Red is not even going to contest this. They just go for the push instead. Laleko and Gigo have gone back.
Yeah, both of them
Two
have
people?
gone back. So, okay. So that might be contestable by the side of red. They're still very slowly because of the lack of having both of those players in the fight trying to
the
get in.
TP.
There's a TP coming from the leg.
And they interrupted. FNB stops it.
Cancelled. It is cancelled. And that's not going to be help. But Desawa still takes the 50-50. And they're going to guarantee this one. That's going to be Prodelta getting taken down. And the
he
TP
dead?
also coming out in the backline. That's 2 down. And they could get something more onto FNB and Grefdal trying to get in range. Smiley is just so thirsty to take this Rek'Sai down, flashing over the wall, and a redemption to finish it out and letting them healthy. And VKS pulled this out in a unbelievable manner.
You know, I salute Red for what they attempted to do, but Cade Stars, you got to pick your fights a bit better, and Cade Stars are doing just that. They recognize that, hey, if we win at this dragon, we can snowball immediately into the Baron. It's worth more, and sure, Red is prepping sort of secondary plays. They had the plan B with the push, but it's not the same. Numbers matter so much at this game. We're effectively in the late game right now, and I don't care how strong you are. 4v5 is still 4v5.
It really is. That's one auto away from taking down that tier 1. Aegis, though, could pick them off. That's going to be a nice dodge from Laleko, allowing them to survive. Some damage back there on the W from Veigar. And in the jungle, trying to get some of that damage onto F&B. But as soon as they go down to Earth, that's going to be a lot of healing that the Rek'Sai gets back. Let's have a look at that one again.
Yeah, I'd love to see actually the Cade Stars perspective, because I think that's what they showed us.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Like, Aegis didn't know what was coming, but same, Cade Stars was just doing it blind at that point. And this play, huge props to the side of Red for attempting this. And FNB stopped one of the teleports, but you couldn't stop both. Brunsey just gets dove by Pro Delta, and Pro Delta knew he was going to die going in. It does not matter. If you take out Brunsey, that's your fight won right there.
Ooh, there was a nice dodge as well from Smiley. A little bit of a whiff from Greftar on the charm as well. Pro Delta doesn't land that knock up on the bot lane, but it's VKS coming out from a shy of 1,500 gold on that first Baron buff power play, now to 4,000, really making it work.
And now this Baron push, Red is base racing on the top side. Now, they do have less turrets to take to base race in, but this is an incredibly bold move from them. Cade Stars don't need to send Smalley back. Smalley gets a split push solo, while everybody else runs back, and Red actually get the inhibitor turret. I don't think they should be going for the inhibitor.
Yo, they are 4 members though.
Okay,
BKS decide to come back. That's an interesting play you have on the bot side. Both the Lovers duo and the Summers as well. They are continuing the push, so at least it's stalled a little bit from the side of VKS, and Red pushing into that base. They're gonna take the inhibitor to test. No, they don't. Okay, the minion. Okay, thank God that was one inhibitor for another, or else I would have been upset.
Yeah, I'm actually really shocked that Cade Stars only opted to send 2 back to stop that push, because I think Red could have potentially looked for the dive. Brunsey has a lot of burst damage. If they found the Laleko, that could have been a lot worse. As it stands, though, Kate Stars come out with the trade. You're trading top inhib for bot inhib. That sounds equal on paper, but Kate Stars had an extra inner turret to take, so more gold in their pocket on a scaling team who we've already hit late game. So this should be comfortably in Kate Stars' back pocket at this point. It isn't. Red are still finding ways to stay competitive.
Yeah, and it's just by the fact that they are executing team fights well and getting nice rotations that just base rush was also a good idea, because you're trying to stall as much as you can from that gigantic Baron buff power play that VKS had already accumulated, and it shrunk it down to 2,000 that VKS has ahead, and we have been seeing that constantly. 2,000 ahead for Red, then for VKS, and the graph should be looking very funny at the moment with shy of 40 seconds to go for the Drake to spawn, and VKS have to contest it.
And for that dragon that you're talking about, Sochan, it's the saving grace of Red that they took so many of the early Drakes, because I don't fancy their odds fighting this. And what we've been seeing for some of these Drakes is, especially the last one, is that Red just go, okay, we aren't going to go for this Drake. We're going to go for your base instead. And if Kate Stars had gone the early Drakes, we'd be sitting at Mountain Soul, and it'd be looking really, really rough for the side of Red. Even now, FNB is in the enemy base facing off against the Leko, trying to threaten the base rather than actually coming to this fight. And for FNB, because he's a tank and because he's been one of the big engagers for Red, him being here is more important than Leko being here right now. The TP from Leko can be clean up, whereas for FNB, you need it for the engage.
Yeah, you really do. And speaking of engage, we're going in straight away. There's a Magnetic Storm that doesn't really connect, but Jojo's falling very low on health, but so is Predelta. Both supports are not going to be feeling comfortable. That's going to be a backline engage from Aegis, and that doesn't really connect into anything good for them aside from their own demise. And now 3 Drakes for each team. Soul point that has to be fought over in just 5 minutes, with VKS having all control over the red side of the map.
And the CC on Aegis was looking for the insect. Again, the call from Red is not to go for Dragon. It's not about the Dragon stacking for them. They're trying to end the game. They were looking for a pick, a kill that will enable them to go in. But the CC that locked up Aegis meant that he got nothing. Jojo now getting dove.
Yeah, and they're going to get killed just immediately with that tower also eliminated in the mid lane, and a TP from Leko that can connect here and really, really help the side of VKS with 5 members against 3. A flash forward and forcing out a cleanse there from Bronzy, not a flash. And that's going to be very dangerous for Red to be fighting without 2 members. Aegis just respawning as we speak, but that's still going to be enough time for VKS to clear out this first Nexus turret, but they have to disengage. They haven't cleaned out the turret, and one is going to be dead. First one is actually going to be Grefta, but going into the backline, Gigo is getting that shut down onto FNB, and Predelta also keeping Bronzy and Aegis away. I think this is game. This is game as we speak. RMC and VKS gets the 2-1.
I love how Smalley's... I love it when foreigners, when imports come to Brazil and they start getting steeped in the Brazilian culture, they start acting like the local Brazilians as well. Smalley just shouting to the other side, and hey, justifiably so as well. Kate Stars, they're playing this so well strategically. These sort of time bomb drafts, putting the pressure onto Red, soaking all that early pressure from them. This is when Kate Stars look best.
And they executed that like we would expect from VKS. Now I'm looking to see if they can close this out in 4 games. Because we saw VKS getting it to 5 at least 2 times in the playoffs. Well, all the times they were in playoffs. And with that, you're just really looking at VKS feeling on their zone. Late game, yeah, we thrive. And we were thinking Smiley could be a weak link as how we were seeing them perform in regular season. Giving them the hyper carries just makes VKS look like a different team.
Yeah, and I love the fact too that Leko is starting to get these hyper carries. To me, that was the big takeaway I got from this series against Pain. Watching Leko start to step up with things like the Tristana, like the AD LeBlanc, and now, you know, with this Vigar as well. It just looks so good when he can actually be a secondary carry and distract away from Smiley. You're not praying that G-God descends anymore. You've got other options from them. And on top of that as well, this is not against just any team. It's against Red, the team that beat you twice in the regular season. You couldn't find a single win against them. We'd said Kate Stars feels a little bit capped against the better mechanical teams. Well, if you can beat Red Canids, this is a team whose mechanical ceiling is probably top of the league right now. That's no longer a weakness. People can't say, oh, we will just outlane you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and lane is not a problem anymore for VKS. They are keeping that ground if they want to go for late game, and even when they want to be aggressive in the early game, they are executing it well, like we saw in the second. Now, getting into game 4, RMC. Do you think there's any major issues that have to be fixed on the side of red, or was it just VKS executing? There we go. That composition well.
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I do think Kate Stars are performing pretty close to what we'd expect from like their peak performance. I don't want to call it their peak performance because it feels like they're still scaling at this point, but this is about as good as we've been seeing from them throughout the regular season thus far. Red Canids, on the other hand, it's not necessarily their mechanical execution that's a problem, right? Like we've seen FNB be such a menace. We saw Aegis and Greftar still finding those picks. Brunsey especially popping off huge this game with Jojo in lane and out of lane. I think for Red, the bigger problem is just that you can't look to try and overwhelm Kate Stars anymore with just these sort of blitzing style compositions. So I'd like to see Red Canids kind of draft a little bit more insurance for themselves. We think back to game 1 when Reds won their game. Brunsey was on Jinx. You're on a hyperscaler yourself. I do believe that Brunsey can actually match up to Smalley. Smalley's great at late game carries. So can Brunsey. You know, Brunsey can do the same thing. So going to game 4, I think it's a bit of a drop adaptation that Red needs to make, and it's one that they are fully capable of making.
I agree. And if you guys are interested in seeing what's going to be the outcome of this 4th game, please stay tuned for CBLOL English, as we're going to be back with more action on the Rift just after this break. Welcome back to our game 4 of Red Canids versus VKS, RMC, and the Surfchan to break it down for you, because we were thinking that VKS would pull through to a game 5 potentially because of how they've been doing on playoffs, but this way against Red Canids,
yeah, I'll be honest, my predictions were not so positive for the side of VKS. I thought it was going to be a 3-0 sweep, but I I did say I think if Kate Stars get 2 wins, if it does go a full 5 games, it would be a Kate Stars 3-2. And Sofchan, they're doing it faster than that. It's looking like a potential 3-1 Red. Have to find a way to punch back, or it's lights out for them.
Yeah, and as you're mentioning that about predictions, let's have that graphic on screen for you guys so we can know exactly what the talent of CBLOL English have been thinking about this series. So we have a big
Okay.
majority of red candidates, and that includes myself and you, alongside Trajan, Camcom, and Rose, with X-Men, Rudur, and Solari going for the VKS Stonks play that we are actually thinking very possible to happen.
Trajan has betrayed the European Union. The only European not to go Kate Stars. And Axe has taken his citizenship instead and joined the Kate Star side. And, understandable. Coming into this, Brunty and JoJo looked nigh unstoppable, and everybody thought they're just going to roll Smalley and Pro Delta right over. But Pro Delta, MVP for last game. These last 2 games, Pro Delta has really been popping off and has been huge, and we're not seeing Smalley get run over.
Yeah, which is, I'm not going to say impressive, but delightfully surprising, because we were thinking that they could be a little bit of a weak link, given how big of a presence Brunsey has in the early game, but they are keeping it good. They are keeping it completely under control when it comes to getting those hyperscalers into the late game in the best fashion possible, and it's working out amazingly well because we know that Smiley thrives on those hyper carries. So I am very excited for VKS and for everything they have been showing so far.
Yeah, and for Red, this does mean that, hey, if you can't really take advantage of the other team's weakness, it's time to start showing your strengths as well. As much as we were thinking Brunty and JoJo would run over the ball lane, if you can't do that, you can still show us your immaculate team fighting. We saw a little bit of that with Brunty's Kai'Sa. I think that was very effective, even though it didn't ultimately win out. The other strength that they were supposed to have was the Greftar Aegis Cousins connection. And granted, Greftar isn't necessarily the big carry for this team. But the Ari, while he has been able to find some picks with it, is not the same as the likes of his Nico or his Annie, things that can kick off massive team fights.
Yeah, you're right. I wouldn't be mad to see an Annie coming here. I think Annie works out really well in what we have at the moment, which is heavy engages, really getting those team fights absolutely brawly altogether. So I would be happy. Greftar did well when they played the Annie, so that would be amazing. We also been seeing, of course, the big targets there on Talia that Greftar goes really well on. And did we have a swap side? No, it was red on the blue again.
Yep. It feels like both teams are favoring the blue side heavily in this series, so winner has been selecting that. The Talia slam from Kate Stars coming through as you're talking about it, Sochan.
I love that. Okay, so yes, while I was talking, I did see that it wasn't on the bans, but I didn't quite clock it. Yes, there has to be a deny from VKS, or else they are not going to be letting that slide with Greftar picking it. But Lovers Duo goes to red, as we saw doing really well for Smiley and Predelta in this previous game. And again, for VKS, the rel that could be flexing. I have we seen that much Talia on Leleco? I think
he has played
not that much. Yeah, but not that much. So I'm actually excited to see how he's going to be playing against the player that really performs well onto the Talia. And Smiley could confirm the Kai'Sa right here, one of his favorites, and that is the case.
Into the Xayah again. I don't know if my read's on this wrong, but I will say this much. Xayah does have a huge win rate into the Kai'Sa. And to me, it's a bold choice. Smalley, we mentioned before, besides the hyper carries, the one champion he's really performed on has been this Kai'Sa. So opting into this matchup this time, it's not just a good pick for Smalley, but it's also kind of a vote of confidence saying that, hey, Brunty, you tried this and didn't work out. I'm going to show you how it's done.
Yeah, that is such a me and solo queue move. I always do that when I see Lux, Misfortune, Jinx. I'm just like, just wait and see when I play this on my next game. And yeah, I'm not gonna say how it goes, but it goes. It's League of Legends. It gets played by me. But you mentioned that Annie, and it's gonna be as banned for VKS as on the side of red. They're going for the Aatrox to deny that from Gigo. Very, very good, as it is one of those champions that gets Gigu on the Gigard kind of level, and VKS rounds it out with that Nico. Looking for that last one for red.
Yeah, and it's interesting. But just kind of, it's not like Nico and Ari do that well into Talia necessarily. I feel like they're just kind of removing Greptar's big playmaking options, the sort of champions where he can kick things off on. Now, he does still have some scaling options. He was playing quite a bit of Hui in the regular season as well. And granted, I don't think it was quite as clean as the Engage, but it does give them sort of a secondary damage threat, a secondary damage source, which I think is sorely needed, especially when, Bruncy is kind of getting everything in the kitchen sink thrown at him.
Yeah, definitely a target on his back. And VKS now with a couple of jungle options decide to go for the Javan Fourth that we saw banned on previous games alongside a Lee Sin or a Xin Zhao. It's going to be picked by VKS, and I think decisive has a great Javan Fourth that Engage really locked in with a magnetic Stormdigger from Pro Delta. He gets a solid place for that Killer Instinct on Smiley. Now Red taking that Rek'Sai and Grafta on the Ari again.
Yeah, and I don't know how I feel about this. It's kind of like Dinka's Ari, where it's like, you're not bad at the Ari. Like, the Ari's, you're kind of good at it, but the problem is just that it's not fitting the composition, or it's not fitting the series and what we've seen evolve through it. It feels like K-Stars have gone pretty comfortable with dealing with the threat of Greftar's Ari. We are seeing the Volibear, though, for Aegis. If anything, this is even more early game oriented, less mechanical skill shot. Literally, I run at you, I stun you. My job's done.
Yeah, VKS looking at that Jax for Gigo, which I really, really like, considering all of the other top options were not as favorable. This one guarantees that Gigo is going to have good, steady laning phase, but at the same time, you just guarantee the late game into split push potential. So good. And what not for Delta, it's just where they are now. But for Gigo, they have such a great position for flanks in the late to mid game that you just know it's going to be performed well. And a couple of run backs for Red that, do you think it's going to be played differently? Does it have to be played differently?
Well, we saw this sort of composition back in game 2, right? And the Rek'Sai was in the jungle at that point for Aegis. I think FNB's Rek'Sai is really, really good. I'm very comfortable with it. The lane matchup against Jax will be fine. As you mentioned, the issue isn't lane for that Gigo Jax. The big difference to me for this composition is, first of all, the Xayah Rakan. You're not running into a Jinx this time, which is critical because Jinx just outranges you and Xayah can't do anything. There is no counterplay for that, really. This time you're up into a Kai'Sa, which is a much more favorable matchup in a way. Kai'Sa has to play into you. Xayah wants to kite backwards anyways. So despite the similarities we're seeing to Draft 2, I think this is a very different game for Red. And in a way, it's an easier match to play with the comp that you do have. But still a bit of a ticking time bomb, which we saw didn't work out for Red back in Game 3.
Yeah, now this time they have Pro Delta on that route that we saw also being well executed by both him and the Samis in previous games. And maybe a little bit, of course, the Xayah Rakan were picked very first into the picking phase. And when we saw the Kai'Sa coming through, it's because of that comfort level for Smiley, how they know how to perform. And they already had the Talia locked in as their first pick. So it makes sense if you want to just make the enemy vulnerable for you to go into a backline. So I like both compositions, but I agree with you that I'm a little worried in regards to how that bot lane is going to be. And I kind of feel comfortable because of the Samis on the Jarvan. What are your thoughts?
That's fair. I agree with that. I think Jarvan is a very good answer into the Xayah specifically, because Xayah is all about avoiding that one big burst. But with the J4, even if you avoid the burst of damage, the terrain doesn't disappear. Cataclysm is still going to be there. And as we speak of Cataclysm, Jojo gets dunked on.
Yeah, that's going to be a dunk on Dojo that just enough to probably send them back to base. Yeah, that's going to be the case. They didn't pop any of those potions in fear, like myself and Soloku would do. But it's going to be just that quick scare from VKS, just countering their initiative here in the jungle. But overall, again, neither of the teams really deciding in the later phases of this series to go for anything heavy stacked on numbers, but they're still interested to get deep vision that happened there for FNB on the Krugs on the top side. And for VK, did they get a deep ward? I don't think they did.
I don't think K-Stars actually got anything aggressive. They're just tracking the river more than anything else here. And that is unfortunately, I think the wrong side of the map because Aegis is starting there. I mean, you stop the early ganks potentially that might come through. I mean, Volibear can level 2 gank, but you're not going to be able to track him on that top side, which is, I suspect, more likely where we're going to see Aegis look for his first piece of action.
Definitely. Now, ooh, already an engage here. There's an on-copy that comes out from Jojo, but traded it back. It was positive for Smiley and Predelta.
Yeah, just kind of feeling themselves out a little bit again. Normally, Xayah, not that strong early on, but with the Rakan, with the bonus damage, it kind of works out. And Kai'Sa as well. A lot of her damage trading early comes from her Q in lane. And if you're not really in range with that, if Smiley can't get that off, then yeah, if you're Brunsey Jojo, you're definitely going for it.
Yes, you are. Now, the usual traded back here at the top lane. Nothing really of a kill threat so far. There's a good vision, as you mentioned there, in the river coming out from VKS, so they are aware of it. The Summers is also close. And in the Fog of War, Aegis is going to commit to at least getting a shield W damage. And while on the top side, you could get a First Blood. Okay, forces out a flash from FNB going on the ground to heal up, but definitely worth it.
Yeah, it's massive in the top side. If you can kill the Rek'Sai early as the Jax, that's absolutely insane. Because Jax does win level 1, as he does most of the time with that Counter-Strike. But he's not expected to win out post level 3 at that point. Because at that time, you know, Rek'Sai starts becoming an absolute nuisance. You just have better sustain coming through. Aegis won't be able to find any gank top, as a great ward from Gigo earlier. They're really doing a good job tracking this early Volibear.
Yeah, it looks so good as well because they decided not to go through, well, yes, we know where you started and we know where you're going. It's more like we know if you are coming. So if you're around, they have good wards for it. And I think it's a good strategy on this case. Not really looking like anybody interested in going for a rotation for the bottom side yet, aside from the Summits that has cleared out fully the jungle from top to bottom. Coming here with a big pressure from this bot lane, could even get an engage. There's a root coming from Brownsea, so a lot of damage for onto Predelta, so not very useful or worth it for them to be as aggressive as they were. And Aegis is still buying time here at the top side, trying to find an angle to go onto Leleco, but they have been spotted at every time.
And Aegis is starting to fall behind a little bit with all these attempts at ganks, is what you got to do with the Volibear, but already Disamis a level up, and with that J4, you're a really strong ganker too. And once you get that Cataclysm, we kind of touched on it with Bruntsea, and the fact that, hey, the Xayah not so good at dealing with Cataclysm, but also to a certain extent with even the Rek'Sai and the Ahri, you can't lock them down, but being able to chase multiple ways and have so much form of CC will often cause them to have to burn flash and or die.
And at the moment, we have both junglers still going for the clear instead of deciding to go for a gank, of course, because Aegis is behind in that rotation, and because the Samus has cleared out fully the jungle on this side of the map, they want to go back and rotate directly for the bot side once again, or even go for early void grabs if that is the case, as we have both objectives spawning in 5 seconds, and there is still good pressure and dominance here in this lane, as Miley and Predelta just push this one and shove it out as fast as they can to allow even more on the bottom side, while Aegis themselves decide to go for the void grubs and the top side. FNB punching it back onto Gigo, popping out those potions. The refill is out. You're gonna have to go back to base and fill that up in a fountain. I
will say though, this is a little bit of bait in the top side because Gigo is losing pressure now. But Gigo has not burnt TP yet, whereas FNB did have to burn his. So that's kind of the trade-off Gigo is doing right now. He's just trying to get as much damage off before he gets the recall. Unfortunately, this is Rek'Sai. So it kind of doesn't matter. And because you opted for that sort of strategy, that's why we didn't even see the Samus look at that Void Grub side of the map. It was just bad timing when Gigo has no pressure and doesn't have the strength to actually pull it off.
Definitely, and they have the strength at the bottom side, absolutely, as VKS has already started the first Drake of the game. No place for Red to even try and contest it. They're still getting into the bot side. So very quick and assertive pressure that VKS got to assert here on the bottom side. And they could even try to do something more about it, but I just think the objective is enough.
Yeah, and I'm actually a little bit scared by the fact that Gatestars Smalley went for a call. Like, this is not about that mid-game spike. Oh, Pro Delta caught? Has to flash early?
Yeah, they do. There's a charm that connects, and there's going to be enough damage to take Delta down. With the first blood going out to Grefta could be taking Jojo back, so a trade of supports that could still turn into something more. Leleko is on a bad spot. While the Summons is taking damage, the charm did land. They could take Aegis before they get taken down, but they don't. Aegis escapes, and now with a very long rotation from Gigo, trying to just get there in time, are going to have to concede many of those minions.
Yeah, and Samus actually have to flash forward. Hold up. Okay.
I just wanted to scare you there.
Yeah, I think Liko started writing that and realized, wait, hold up. Maybe I don't want this. Let's hop off the other way. A little bit scary. But this starts off from just aggressively posturing up from the side of Red, recognizing that, hey, Greftar level 6, we actually have a lot of burst damage. We can try and do this. Now, what shocked me a little bit was the Samus flashing here to finish off Jojo. I don't know if that's the right call, because sure, you killed a support, but you literally trade your life for it. If you hold that flash, the Samus gets out. And sure, it's a 1 for 0, but instead you trade 2 for 1. That's not really better for Red, who need to accelerate the game now, or are looking for the early mid-game power spike now.
Most definitely, especially because you have those skills landing onto Greftar. That's the mid laner that has been doing consistently well, given that they have been playing Ahri all of these games. It means that there's something good about it. So Samus goes out to the top side now as we speak. FNB taking a lot of damage, but Aegis is also there to back it up. There's some shielding coming back from the Volibear, but Greftar is there on the back line. First one is going to get taken down is going to be FNB, but that's another one, and a 2 for 1 confirmed for VKS. Could turn into a 2 for 2 if Gigo gets shut down here. They have no mana to actually continue forward, and the W guarantees a double kill for the Greftar, now on 4-0-0.
What was that about bad news and feeding Greftar? So funny. He's now 4-0. That's nutty, and he's going to get another plate on that top side as well. They're trying to answer bot lane, but Brunsey is 6.
Yeah, they are. Look at the damage coming out from Leleko, trying to take it down. But as you said, with the Feather Storm, the kill threat is not really there.
Yeah, and you can see Brunsey didn't have any summoners available, but wasn't really scared at any point of dying. Is actually still sitting in this lane, and with Aegis hovering protectively around the back, there is potential for a gank. The Samus is rushing down to try and cover, but no Cataclysm available for this J4.
Very important for an engaged tool, especially when you need to line it up with a Magnetic Storm and per Delta. Golden Arcups possible is very important to guarantee Smiley that good layout of damage. We know that it has some damage as a Kaisa in the early game, and now that you've gone for a cull, really shows that you don't have that much damage. You're really going for stacking out gold for the mid to late game. But there is a big rotation. 4 members of Red down here, so VKS should be disengaging. Leleko is also on the way, and they don't have the Weaver's Wall, so that wouldn't be the best course of action.
Weaver's Wall just came up, but I agree. I don't think you kind of go for that play. We're getting a replay of what happened on that top side there. FNB just trying to create as much time as possible. And he is already quite tanky, so he did buy a lot of time. What surprised me is actually how squishy Aegis was, because you saw that the moment the Samus and Gigo turned, they were just able to burst him down. And what should have been a sort of 1 for 2 situation favoring Red ends up just being a 2 for 2. And as much as we say that, hey, Greftar is getting very, very far ahead, it is worth noting as well that Gigo did pick up a kill, which will be beneficial in that isolated 1v1 topside.
Definitely is already paying tribute. You've got the Sheen going out for your first item, completed that Trinity. And whenever you do finish that, especially when you already have that Ruby, the Longsword, and the Cull, whenever you have that finished, is going to be the optimal stage for those TPs to really come in handy and help out in the Drakes, or even just to keep your place there on the top side, because you have to do a good job shutting down FNB, or else it does become a big threat in those team fights.
I'm not worried about Gigo and his investments right now. I love the fact that K-Stars just keeps buying calls. Like they're just like, we're a late game team, and we know it. Like, FNB's a problem, I'll just be a bigger problem by being ahead in gold.
It's funny, but it's so true. I think it's just sticking to your roots, sticking to what you know better, your natural habitat, and that's what's going on now for Delta, charging in forward, but not really looking to get any engages. They know that Aegis is around. There's Leleko coming back to lane, or else they're going to lose much of that CS that you cannot be behind when your opposition mid laner is already on 4-0.
Samus actually starting up the Drake here. That's a little bit scary. As you mentioned, Liko is behind. It's still sat on that tier. Greftar already has the Malignant, so Red have a power spike to play for, but they're a bit late to the party.
They are. 40% here on the Drake. There's a weave as well, perfectly set up. But they both, oh, they don't decide to go for any of those gap closures. You have Rakan, you have that Rek'Sai. Speaking of the Rek'Sai, it comes through. It's going to do damage, but they, even though they are isolated, VKS still gets the Drake unpunished.
Yeah, and I'm really liking Leleko's play this game. Sure, like he's down gold, not his fault. Greftar has 4 kills, none of them are from Leleko. And right there, the Weaver's wall to cut off Red was enough to secure a disengage. The Unraveled Earth stops the engage coming through from FNB, and FNB committed a TP to make that happen. Leleko is the great denier this game.
So good, so good. And that's one of those cases that we mentioned, you know, Dalia, yeah, Greftar, you like to play her? Well, then I'm going to play her very well as well. And might as well take the series with it because they are on match point. Vivo Kate Stars now getting themselves on 2 Drakes up and stacking onto 2 of those Void Grubs, considering Aegis is clearing out that Grump. That would be the case. No, they decide to just leave. So it could be Red guaranteeing those 2. Now, FNB goes over the wall. There's a counter strike from Gigo. Jojo is around if necessary. But they're just trying to get some more vision and pressure into the enemy jungle.
Yeah, and Jojo actually sneaking past the Scryers, won't be caught by that. Now Desama should know that his jungle is in trouble. The question is, do they know exactly how many people are causing that trouble?
In this bot lane, 2 people. That could cause trouble for Greftar, but it's not going to be the case this time around. FNB with a very long and deep push with Jojo around the corner. It's fine, but they're going to take damage. Jojo was over the wall with Aegis, but it's okay. With those holds, you can get yourself out of dodge. Now rotating here for the mid lane, Red could find something onto Leleko. They've got everything, so I don't think that would be the case. The Summers is also around if necessary, so far it just feels like they're wasting time.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, yes, they are definitely not finding anything, and VKs are very happy with this. On the other hand, what Red are trying to do is accelerate the game. They recognize that, hey, we are not going to win this late, so let's get the roaming gang squad going, right? Bruncey's going to be okay in the bot lane. He's still perfectly fine as long as that Featherstorm is up and available and he doesn't leave turret, or actually, I guess it's Greftar actually down here. But as long as Greftar has Spirit Rush, it's really hard to lock him down, and we left Bruncey in the mid lane instead, which is safer. As I say that though, Greftar eating a lot of damage.
Yeah, it doesn't look safe at all. There's going to be a flag in drag, but the Cataclysm gets dodged by the Spirit Rush. What a play by Greftar, staying safe and escaping that gank. Now looking out this jungle here, Prodelta could get something. No, just interested in stealing the jungle.
No, P, you don't get to go in on this, Prodelta. This is not your jungle, and you have no backup right here. TP into the top side from both mid laners.
Yeah, and both top laners also here as well, taking damage. Greftar was in tower range, so not the best of spots, but also Leleko on half HP. While Red has started the hero themselves, Prodelta is around, and I think that's why I'm getting confused. I'm looking at the Red, I'm like, oh, that's the jungler. No, incorrect. That's going to be the Summers on the Java, and they are very much far away from this Herald, so Red take this one uncontested.
Yeah, and again, Red are just trying to push the pace, right? You saw Greftar and Aleko both have the TP top side. Neither of them were healthy from that bot side play, but Red, I like the idea. Not only they call for the TP, they move for the Herald as well. They're looking for the dive. Turret disabled.
Yeah, they're going to deny the tower disabled, as you said. Going out with the killer instinct. Smiley is in a good position to kite them out, but that's going to be an ultimate coming from FNB. Prodelta is dead, and it turns into a... Wait, 2 for 0? Wait, hold on.
2 for 1. FNB does go down at the end of it. Smalley able to pick that one up. Herald, though, still in Red's pocket if they want to try and brute force this. A little bit scary since Gigo is back up, and Red wisely cut their losses.
It's really, really good from them. And as you said, I think Red navigating the way they are just makes so much sense. But let's have a look at that again.
Yeah, the dive comes through, and Katesars thought they could be able to hold it. I don't think they were expecting that many people to come in. But anytime you're up against a Volibear, you just have to respect the fact that that turret is not yours. It turns off for, granted, shorter than it used to, but it's enough for you to get the kill and get out. FNB just chose to go further in to secure more kills as we can. Prodelta, again, that's not your jungle,
Yeah, it's not your jungle. Okay, getting cornered there by Aegis. Also, Jojo over the wall. Prodelta in a very, very bad spot. Slowed down.
No way he gets out. No way.
I think they do.
That's criminal.
They did. It really is.
That's so criminal that Product. That's like the second time this game, and like I don't know how many times this series we've seen Product just kind of walk in. When he's on the Rakan, I'm okay with it. He's mobile, which is why I didn't say a thing last game. But on the Rel, you're really not that mobile. Herald gonna crash into mid lane turret. Gonna be a nice clean take, and first brick goes to Red.
First break, very important. Now Red taking as much of that extra gold as they can have, although they are not very much far ahead and very much equal in gold overall. Now here on the top side, Gigo is dealing some damage onto FNB that can just escape with those portals very much easily.
Okay, this feels a little bit early for the Jacks to be taken over, but if you're the side of Cade Stars, going to be happy with that one with just the Trinity Force. FNB is no longer winning out on that side lane. TPs are available for both of these top laners, so as the teams are kind of positioning for Dragon, this could break out into a full 5-on-5.
It could, and that would be very interesting. On 17 minutes, you have Vision coming out from VKS, but being denied by Red as well. There's a Weaver's Wall. Now Red having to retreat here. There's a TP from Gigo going out forward. There's a stun that lands onto Grafta. Enough damage? Yes, it is! And that's a shutdown from Smiley onto Grafta. Huge for them to guarantee this next Drake.
Yeah, and it's really important too, because Kates were the team that was stacking Drakes from the get-go. Red played for the Void Grubs instead. So this is so point for the side of Cade Stars, and it's doubly scary, not because of the soul, but because of the very fast Elder stack that is coming through. Red, they opt for the turrets. They're taking the top outer, now getting damage on the inner. But I feel like we saw this trade last game. It didn't end well for Red then. I'm not sure why they think it end better for them this game.
Yeah, you're right. And it's funny as well because it, at least from what I see to them, it feels like they think that is the only option. Well, we have to concede Drake, then we just go for the split push. But I think they could have a potential to try and fight that one. But as soon as Grafta gets knocked out, then there's really nothing you can do.
Yeah, and that was a great call from Gigo, from the Cade Stars in general, recognizing that, hey, sure, you know, Ari's got Spirit Rush, I've got Flash, I've got Counter-Strike, we can make this work. Red able to find yet another turret, so another infusion of gold. They're still behind, so Cade Stars are up just shy of 1,000, which is a win as far as their composition is concerned. They are the skill and composition. They got past the weakest part of their comp. They're ready to rumble.
They really are, and stacking out to Soul Point already on 18 minutes is huge. For Delta looking to get something onto Graftar again. There's a Hextech Flash going on, but there's, I was going to mention, no minions on that wave to help out, and they just disengage.
Rodata is feeling himself, and after the last 2 games, I don't blame him. Hey, so far he's done well, right? Like he died in a couple of fights, but he's the aggressive positioning that he's been looking for has been unpunished. And for Red, it's a little bit scary as well, because when they go for Prodota, there's always a chance that they overextend. And if there are arcade members nearby, you can punish on that.
You really can. And the only thing that's been left here for F&B is farming and farming and farming. That's also getting matched by Gigo at every turn. Nobody really falling super behind in regards to CS, aside from Bronzy. We have Smiley on 215 versus 171 on them.
Yeah, it's really surprising. And the fact that I think Smalley got some early kills plays a lot into that. The fact that Jojo was roaming so heavily. Laleko, dead to
Oh
rights.
god, grab. Yo, that's what was grabbed. No, it's Laleko taking so much damage. Going down. No. How do they not? That's going to be Smiley with a killer instinct that really saves that mid laner with the summons as well to back it up. And a double kill that stacks onto Smiley. Going to get neutralized as we speak. But that's also going to be the rest of Red gathering around. Predelta's going to get taken. And Bronzy claims the kill themselves. But Gigo has arrived. RMC, this could become a fiesta as we speak. Laleko still has a little bit of HP to maintain the damage, and that doesn't need to be. When you have Gigo in your front line, you're gonna take them down, and that is a huge trade for VKS.
They're just trying to buy time for Brunson to do the damage, but look at what Brunson has in inventory. A Kraken Slayer completed. That's it. Sure, you've got a BF sword. That's a bit of damage, but it's not the same as what Small would have brought with his Terminus. Unfortunately for Red, it doesn't pan out. Laleko lives too, by the way. Like, that is absolutely insane. Like, I thought you just did here, because with the mobility Greftar and Aegis have, they just hop over that wall, no problem. But Smalley came in like a wrecking ball, immediately nuked out Greftar, and sure, you eventually kill Smalley. But the keyword there is eventually. See how long it took? You already lost Aegis and Greftar at that point, and Brunzy, it looked good when Brunzy got in, but Gigo, as Jax, is literally the counter to any sort of auto-attack champion.
Oh yeah, And any ADC is going to be trembling at the base when they're looking at a Jack, especially on the hands of Gigo. So as you said, they just bought enough time for Gigo to come back. And the fact, oh, look at them. Hey, let's go! That's so good of a reaction. Good God.
It is. And hey, if you're Coach Ciel, you'd be really happy to, right? Consider how your playoffs have gone so far. Kate Stars have gone the full 5 games in both series prior to this. They had to reverse sweep Los Grandes to get to this point. And Red 3-0 Los Grandes. This wasn't supposed to be close on paper, but the Kate Stars dropped 1 game, and since then, they have been on point. Red going with what feels a bit like a desperation Baron right now, but they are burning it at a relatively good clip. Kate Stars need to force it soon.
They really do. The Sum is in a good position with a TP in the backline. There's Jojo getting a knockup, but the Magnetic Storm is there. But the damage goes out to the Summers first. That's going to be the VKS's jungler down. They have to disengage immediately and might as well just have to concede this one. The champ doesn't land, goes too wide, and Leleco survives. Really slippery on that Talia.
Gigo burnt TP to make this play, and Kate Stars, while they did manage to push Red off the Baron, the fact that Red got to get it that low and finds the kill off of this without really burning anything significant on their end means they can go back and do it again. And Kate Stars do not get to split push against them. If Leleco is down bot, well, they could just do the same thing. And 4-second TP, as we've said before, is a very long time in some of these bigger team fights.
It is a very interesting strategy. As you said, they were trying to force out the Baron. If they get it, good. If they don't, they can just get this rotation early for the Drake, as they're doing right now. Jojo gets a knock-up onto Smiley, immediately cleaned out by the Killians. And they deny that soul point from VKS. Now Red is still pushing him forward. Could take per Delta, and that's just going to be the cherry on top of the cake.
Okay, this is an interesting situation. We just talked about Red fishing at Baron. They got a pick. They're just going to go right back to this Baron and go for it. And Kate Stars need to face check. Desamis melts fairly fast. I feel like at this point, like Gigo and Desamis have to coordinate that engage. They don't have Pro Delta to kind of be that meat shield to check into that fog of war right now.
They really don't, and FNB already over the wall to get a good position here behind the pit. Gigo also scouting them out with Graf there around, could get a good charm.
Okay.
Now there's 30% on that Baron. The Summers has to go in. There's a flag and drag that could be placed. The flag is in the pit, but that's going to be the feathers pulled back by Brunsey and guaranteeing the Baron not even contested by VKS.
The nerves of steel on this Red roster. No rookies here, and it definitely shows. Like these plays they're making are kind of mind-boggling. They are behind, they are back, and they are still baiting happily away at Baron. TP flank, double TP.
No, that's a good one. That is a really, really good one. That FNP and Grafta coming out, but the T2 still gets taken out. Smiley in a very bad spot. Now trying to get away from Aegis. And Aleko goes down first, trying to get some damage back. It's not quite there. What a knock-up coming out from Aegis. And Jojo, of course. But that's a shutdown onto Brunsey. That's huge. FNB takes Smiley in the back line, and they're trying to even do more. They have the numbers advantage. They have the damage. VKS should be done on this one. They can't claim anything back. The Summers still trying to chase away, but that's a slow. Oh, they managed to with a flash, and the Summers survives out after an outrageous push.
Yeah, and for Kate Stars, that sort of counterpunch is what you do a lot of times. When one team takes Baron, you push as hard as you can while they're trying to reset. Problem is, not all of Red reset. The double TP to collapse, and we were just talking about that nerves of steel, the ice, the cold ice blood that runs in their veins. It showed it again, and now the Baron push is so much more effective from Red because there aren't defenders from Kate Stars to properly push them off.
It's impressive. So impressive, I'm seeing. With that, they guarantee tier 2 mid top lane, and they could push in further, but they're not looking to get as exposed. They are already on 3,500 gold on that Baron buff power play.
And for Kate Stars, the way they end up disengaging was also a bit of a problem, right? It's such a split fight. Gigo does so good to just keep Brunsey off the fight. Brunsey actually flashes forward to try and get back into the fight. Doesn't really have any impact for it, but picture in picture, FNB, is he in trouble?
Oh, are they? Yeah, you're totally right. Okay, we're not going to be able to see that very, very closely, but there's going to be the Rek'Sai having to try and escape from 4 members of VKS. That means no escape, but a huge, delicious, juicy shutdown to Smiley.
Yeah, and for it, no sort of counterplay available. I don't think Kate Stars really burnt anything significant on that particular chase as well. The Baron power push that started so well for Red is just, I think, stopped as it stands. 40 seconds is a long time, and it's not a long time, pardon me, when FNB's death timers are like 30 plus seconds.
Oh, yeah. And I agree that Baron Buff power play has started to cool down, but Graftar still here in the mid lane trying to push it up with Laleko fiercely throwing rocks left, right, and center to defend it. And VKS still having some pressure here on the bot lane and making it do? That's insane. And the fact that they really stalled for that Baron Buff power play to just not completely destroy their own base is very nicely done.
Yeah, I think Red was on track to take all the inner turrets. Would have been a huge infusion of gold. They are now up 2,000 gold, which it's not the biggest at 26 minutes or almost 27 minutes into the game. But given how plucky Red are, every single bit of gold, every item power spike really does matter to them. You can see the gold graph as well. Kate Stars were doing so well until just that one fight. And the good news for Kate Stars, though, is that the scaling is still in their favor, right? They've already tied it over the Baron. They can kind of take their time. They've got all but one of the dragons so far as well. So they're not worried about Red Dragon stacking. If Kate aren't comfortable, they can always kind of sit back a little bit, let the Kate Stars just let Red, pardon me, pick up that dragon. Don't contest with that. Don't feed over any more kill gold.
Yeah, and it's a good call because you really cannot afford to let any of those players be out of the fight. Being outnumbered is where Red is going to take you out and punish you every single time. It has been the case for the last couple of fights, from that Baron rotation into the Drake into Baron again. That's when they not just guaranteed the Baron but also denying of their soul. Smiley, though, with good pressure here on the top side, denying that tier 1, while in the mid lane Red is full pushing for that tier 3 in the mid lane, only now defended by Gigo. But it's all good. You have a good shadow of Smiley here with the Samus into the jungle. They could even take this one by themselves. There is no backup from Red. They're deciding to stay and maybe trade back the top for bottom of tier 2s. And Red takes the Drake, which is very important for them.
Yeah, so effectively we're trading Dragon for a tier 1 turret, and 2 tier 2s kind of cancel out there. And I don't hate this from the side of Kate Stars. We're just talking about sacking that dragon, and you get the outer instead. You get that big push. That's also a good setup potentially for the Baron in a minute's time, right? The more you can take away from that top side, the better it is for you. Prior to that, with the outer turret still standing, it was bouncing so early. Desamis?
Oh,
it's interrupted.
My God. That's an immediate. The sum is dead. Oh my God. Obliterated even. That was a Chana CC just laid out by a god.
Yeah, he tried to flag and drag, couldn't even pull himself out of that. The immediate catch from Red, and this vision control was actually kind of set up prior during the Baron push, right? They cleared everything out, and because of that, this time when they're pushing out, they're fine. FNB, is he going to be in trouble? Dodge out the Void Seeker.
Oh, and a nice dodge there as well onto that knock-up coming out from Laleko.
He's out.
There's going to be an easy escape from them. They're not really going to commit. Maybe FNB is just trying to be around to disorient them, as they are looking to do so. At least try to deny some of those recalls. They have TP to go out to the Baron pit if necessary. Of course, Red could and should be directing there soon enough with 20 seconds for it to spawn.
And if we said Kate Stars could kind of give up that dragon to try and get gold, this is what they were trying to get gold for. The Baron fight. Because Kate Stars can't sit back on this one. The last time Red got the Baron, they took, I'm going to say all your inner turrets. Granted, the last one happened outside the Baron power push, but it was set up by the Baron power push. So Kate Stars need to look for this one. Baron already lost 1/3 health, down to half.
That's insane. Graftar in a good flank, getting some damage onto Pro Delta, but the Samus is taking the front line. Some of that damage negated by the counter strike, and there's going to be a shutdown onto the jungler. Red doesn't have that smite anymore, and another kill gets taken. It's both shutdowns on the hand of Gigo plus Smiley, and they're chasing it back. FMB trying to find a position here onto Laleko, and the TP as well from Gigo. Just to, I don't know, be fanciful about it, I would say. They don't even need to go for the Baron. They're going to start and push in this mid-tier 3, and they can just as easily take down the inhibitor too, RMC.
And that's what we're seeing. It's not a fancy TP necessarily. They were trying to just go for this push. It is dangerous, and they have to make it work. FNB already back to base. Can he stall? Can he wave clear?
Can he? That's a tier. That's a Nexus turret completely taken. That's the second one down too. That's going to be a 4v3.
They've done it!
No, 4v2. They've done it! VKS with a 3-1 win over Red Ken. It's taking them into the fight against Pain Gaming tomorrow.
The comeback story from K-Stars. It's not quite the reverse sweep, but it almost feels like it right now in the playoffs. That's the second win they've got in the lower bracket. And so This means Kate Stars have clinched their revenge match against Pain, the team that knocked them down, the only team they've lost to so far in the playoffs.
Wow. Wow. That was amazing. I am so thrilled to see VKS coming out with such a journey, having the rookie with Leleko coming out mid-season, performing as great as they did. And to me, especially how Smiley has been doing on playoffs, especially today, is just absolutely outstanding to me. I wanted to see this team become a gel, a cohesive form, and they've become an ultimate unit.
Yeah, and Smalley especially, this bot lane, this supposed weakness for Kate Stars isn't the case anymore. We've already seen that they can hold their own. And that last play as well, that's Smalley just dashing in, correctly identifying, hey, Featherstorm's down, plate call is used, this is free. And he just goes in and just absolutely wrecks them, is the one who kind of finishes off Grepthar as well. Yeah, that's what you want to see. And I think Kaisa going into tomorrow is something that Pain needs to be very, very aware of. Titan is very good. But if we're talking about playmaking AD carries, that's the one that Smalley is particularly excelling on right now.
Definitely. And I would give credit as well to Predelta in all the games. Even we saw a Janna game with the Jinx. Oh my god, Predelta really just taking the lead in regards to being in front, baiting out. You die, it's fine. It's for the greater good. And it's been like that for the most of the times. I think we saw something along the lines of regular season, some sort of Nautilus, dying so much and sometimes not repaying in regards to kills. This is not what has been going out for Predelta today. I wouldn't say exactly for the previous matches on playoffs, but it has reached a new level for VKS that I'm just so happy to see.
And for Red Canids, unfortunately, the journey ends here. This is the lower bracket. This was for elimination. And I just feel for FNB because I think in this series, FNB did an incredible job. Like, he held Gigot down, right? Like, we started the day by saying, hey, Gigot, 8 regular season MVPs, 8 solo kills, top solo kill. Yeah, none of that mattered. FNB had his number, nullified him. Throughout the entire series, was applying way more split push pressure on the map. And unfortunately for FNB, it just didn't matter. On this day, Bruncy and Jojo weren't able to punish. Aegis and Grepthar weren't able to make the connections they needed to. And for Red, it's another split. Another year, they don't make championships.
Yeah, very unfortunate for them, and I agree with you. They had great games. They've really stood their ground, especially there on the top lane. Some great plays coming out from Greftar as well, but it didn't come through. I think maybe switching out from the Ari on every single game could have given a fresh breath and a fresh air for the squad. But I don't think it was anything bad with either of the drafts. I think VKS just took this to a whole new level that I'm convinced, I'm not going to say solely, but definitely with the direction and orientation from CL has been the biggest point to guide this team to victory. And tomorrow, you're not going to want to miss Pain Gaming versus Vivo Kate Stars, brought to you by Hawk and X-Men, of course, here, as always, every weekend at 1 p.m. BRT. And any final words, RMC, before we wrap it out for the day?
Kind of scared for what tomorrow might bring, but the storylines are just too good. Can BKS actually finish the revenge tour, or do we see a rematch of the Duel of the Multitudes once again for the 4th straight time?
Well, for the surprises, for the, versatility, just new stuff, innovation, I would love to see VKS versus Loud on the grand finals. That would just bring such a new feeling to the script that CBLOL brings to the table, especially starting out 2024. But if it comes to Loud and Pain, we know that we also have a banger. But before that, we're still ways away from that 20th of April for grand finals. We still have tomorrow, Pain Gaming versus Vivo Kate Stars. We expect to see you here because we are going to be here. We're going to see you then. Thank you. That was sick. That was so sick. That was so sick. I really